In my past life, my childhood friend Jiang Chang came to me, wanting to give up the independent recruitment offers from Tsinghua and Peking University to follow the school beauty to some obscure second-tier college. For the sake of his future, I privately told his mother about it. In the end, Jiang Chang had no choice but to go to Tsinghua or Peking University with resentment, graduated successfully, and took over the family business, but within a few years. After he gradually gained control of the Jiang family enterprise, he launched a vicious campaign of revenge against my family. The Zhou family business collapsed and underwent asset restructuring. My father was thrown in prison, while my mother was saddled with a mountain of debt. She toiled away day after day, only to meet her end through the malicious vengeance of an enemy, and I was left with nothing. My family was utterly destroyed. I asked Jiang Chang, why? Jiang Chang's eyes were filled with nothing but venomous hatred as he spat. If it weren't for you, I never would have lost her. I see. I closed my eyes with bitter regret. If I had another chance, I would never interfere in Jiang Chang's life. Fortunately, I was reborn, right before the college entrance exams. This time, even if Jiang Chang plunges into the abyss, I won't lift a finger to help. Ching, Nan confessed to me. She said she's liked me for 3 years and hopes we can be together. Now, if we just apply to the same university, we can stay together forever. This is amazing. That familiar voice echoed in my ears once more. I blinked, my eyes struggling to adjust to the light. My childhood friend, Jiang Chang, was still excitedly recounting how the school beauty had confessed her feelings to him. I waited 3 years, a whole 3 years, and I finally got her confession. It turns out we've liked each other all along. She's liked me for ages. The top student in our grade was now at a complete loss for words. This just goes to show how utterly thrilled Jiang Chang was. I let out a cold laugh. In my previous life, Jiang Chang had boasted to me in exactly the same way. Back then, I pleaded with him earnestly to accept the independent enrollment offer from Tsinghua or Peking University, get his degree, and then take over the Jiang family. The Jiang family was one of the most prominent clans in the capital. Once Jiang Chang inherited it, what woman wouldn't be within his reach? But not only did he refuse to listen, he even thought I was jealous of their relationship and was trying to break them up. Left with no other choice, I went directly to Jiang Chang's mother and told her about the matter. Consequently, with an iron fist, Mrs. Jiang confined Jiang Chang at home for the entire summer, only releasing him after she had personally overseen his completion of Tsinghua and Peking University's independent enrollment process. This led to Jiang Chang and the campus belle, Wan Nan, being separated for years, causing their relationship to fizzle out without a proper conclusion. Yet, after Jiang Chang inherited the Jiang family, the very first thing he did was to launch a fierce and merciless retaliation against my Zhou family. In the face of the financial behemoth, the Jiang family, the Zhou family was as fragile and defenseless as a newborn chick. The Zhou family business collapsed and underwent asset restructuring. My father was thrown in prison, while my mother was saddled with crippling debt. She toiled day in and day out, only to meet her end from the malicious retaliation of our enemies. Even I couldn't escape unscathed. Blacklisted by the Jiang family, I couldn't find a single job. When I went to confront Jiang Chang, he personally pushed me off the building, and I fell to my death on the spot. The sensation of my bones shattering clung to me like a persistent, gnawing pain I couldn't shake. A shiver ran down my spine. Thank heavens I've been given a second chance. This time, even if Jiang Chang plunges into the abyss, I won't lift a finger to help. Jiang Chang watched my prolonged silence, his expression shifting. He lowered his voice. Ching, do you think Nan isn't good enough for me? Is that why you don't approve? I shook my head. How could that be? As the saying goes, life is precious, but love is priceless. You've finally found your true love. How can you just give up so easily? Jiang Chang nodded excitedly. Exactly, that's what I think too, but I'm afraid my family won't agree. Maybe you, Ching, could. Is he trying to get me to plead his case for him? I'm not that foolish. Chang, you can't do that. Think about it. This is the love you've waited 18 years for. If you let someone else handle everything, where's the sincerity in that? I guess you have a point. Jiang Chang was at a loss for words, but I'm afraid my mom won't agree. After all, with Wan Nan's grades, she could only apply to a run-of-the-mill second-tier university. Not only did Jiang Chang have outstanding grades, but he was also admitted early through Tsinghua and Peking University's independent recruitment program. Once he completes the enrollment process, He'll officially be a student at Tsinghua or Peking University. How could the Jiang family ever allow him to lower his standing like that? I sighed. What a shame. If Nanan's grades were just a bit better, you could have negotiated with Tsinghua or Peking University to let her study there with you, too. Jiang Chang's expression shifted slightly. Exactly. If Ruan Nanan had just scored above the first-tier university cutoff, he could have negotiated with Tsinghua or Peking University. But her score barely met the second-tier cutoff. Getting into a run-of-the-mill second-tier university would be a stroke of incredible luck. I patted Jiang Chang on the shoulder. Chang, this is an incredibly difficult path, but which path of true love isn't? Are you prepared for it? Jiang Chang seemed to find a spark of fighting spirit. He nodded earnestly. I'm ready, no matter what obstacles stand in our way. I will be with Nanan. I nodded. Good, I wish you both the best. After turning to leave, a cold smile crept onto my face. A business empire as vast as the Jiang family's would never allow an heir from a second-tier university to take the reins. Jiang Chang, since you've chosen your true love, you'd better be prepared to lose everything. Meanwhile, the Jiang family learned that Jiang Chang had an estimated score of 726 and had already passed the early independent admissions for Tsinghua and Peking University. Getting into one of them was practically a done deal. Even the prosperous and talented main branch of the Jiang family had only produced a handful of Tsinghua or Peking University graduates. That's why the Jiang family is taking this matter extremely seriously. I heard they've already started planning the celebration banquet. They intend to invite every prominent family in the capital to witness the rise of another promising scion of the Jiang family. I watch all this coldly. The bigger the spectacle they make, the better. When the time comes and the Jiang family is utterly humiliated, they naturally won't be able to tolerate Jiang Chang any longer. Don't blame me for being cold-hearted. In my past life, after Jiang Chang took over the Jiang family, he employed all sorts of underhanded tactics against their former business partners, the Zhou family. The rest of the Jiang family simply turned a blind eye. With no intention whatsoever of lending a hand, under the Jiang family's retaliation, the Zhou family naturally couldn't hold out for more than 6 months before going bankrupt. In other words, everything Jiang Chang did to the Zhou family was done with the tacit approval of the Jiang family. I can't believe I was so naive, thinking of them as close friends and family. Turns out it was all just wishful thinking on my part. I'm never going to read too much into things or get my hopes up like that again. My phone rang. I picked it up and saw it was my mom calling. Seeing that familiar name, my nose instantly stung with emotion, and my voice even carried a hint of tears when I answered. Mom. My mom was startled. Oh my, what's wrong, Ching Ching? Did someone pick on you? I sniffled. No, I was just watching a TV drama. Oh, you gave me such a fright. Have you estimated your score? About how many points do you think you got? What schools can you apply to? Are they any good? Not bad. Getting into Tsinghua or Peking University shouldn't be a problem. My score might not be as freakishly high as Jiang Chang's, but at least I'm not a lovesick fool. My mom sounded pleased. I knew my Ching Ching could do it, and since the Jiang boy is throwing a celebration party, maybe we should have one too. I quickly stopped her. No. Our Zhou family doesn't have that much clout in the capital. With them setting such a high standard, we'd just make fools of ourselves. A simple family dinner is more than enough. What are you talking about? The Zhou family may not be top tier, but we're certainly a rising force in the area. Rounding up 100 tables of guests is well within our means. I laughed through my tears. Mom, keep it down, will you? Instead of spending all that money on a banquet, you might as well just wire it to me. Is my precious daughter short on cash? I'll transfer it right now. Be a good girl. Don't cry. It breaks my heart to see you upset. My mom seemed to have picked up on something. She didn't object to anything I said. Okay, Mom. Less than 30 seconds after hanging up, my phone buzzed with a notification. The transfer had gone through. 5 million. Not a penny more, not a penny less, but it was enough. I wiped the tears from the corner of my eye. Now I'm going to put this money to good use and do something big. 3. In the world of cloud data, Zhou Corp is a veritable unicorn. A small company focused on servers and data naturally can't compare to the Jiang family's diversified empire, but if I just avoid provoking that madman Jiang Chang in this life and focus on my own growth, who's to say I won't surpass the Jiang family in the future? In my past life, I never figured out how Jiang Chang managed to plant fake accounts in my family's Zhou Corporation and then sick the tax bureau on us. In the end, my father was framed on trumped-up charges, thrown in prison, and the Zhou Corporation went bankrupt. now that I've been given a second chance at life, I absolutely will not let this tragedy repeat itself. My father was visibly surprised to see me at the company. Good heavens. What are you doing here? I grinned. Just getting a head start on learning the ropes, so I'm ready to take over the company one day. My dad was taken aback for a second, then scolded me with a laugh. You little rascal, your old man isn't dead yet. Are you that eager to inherit the place? I shook my head. Well, you can't just cram at the last minute, right? It's better to come and get used to things early. So, what position are you after? Supervisor, manager, general manager. The titles my dad listed kept getting more and more senior. I cut him off. I want to work in the finance department, handling the books. What? I repeated myself. I want to go to the finance department and manage the accounts. Oh, my dear Ching Ching, you can't just mess with that stuff. Things could go wrong. Besides, the finance department is all spreadsheets and reports, enough to make your head spin. What's so great about going there? How about I send you to the marketing department to have some fun instead? I nodded. Of course I know, and I still want to go to the finance department. After all, in my past life, I had already learned just how formidable account books could be. Dad, with all the tax experts the Zhou Group has on staff, you really think I'm going to mess things up? Well, I suppose you have a point. My father paused thoughtfully for a moment, then nodded. All right, but listen here. You little rascal, don't you dare cause any trouble, or we'll all end up begging on the streets. Don't worry, Dad, I'm just going to observe the process, so I'll know how to manage the company better in the future. After finally dispelling my father's suspicions, I swiftly took up my post as the head of the finance department. Everyone in the finance department looked at me, the newly parachuted in director, with clear resentment. After all, everyone knew about my relationship with the CEO. I cleared my throat and declared solemnly, in your opinion, which is the most crucial department in Zhou Corporation? They paused for a moment, then someone raised a hand and asked, RD? I shook my head. No, marketing, not that either. That is, I looked around the room and said earnestly, it's the finance department. Upon hearing this, everyone looked somewhat surprised. They hadn't expected me to start by heaping praise on them. On second thought, it was rather amusing. Was this young manager Zhou trying to butter them up? I smiled and said, to assess a company's growth potential, you need to analyze all sorts of data, and that data is in the hands of the finance department. Should a project be greenlit? Is it a long-term or short-term play? What are the potential profits? And what are the downsides? Only finance has the full picture. Am I right? I had them all hanging on my every word. Seizing the moment, I drove the point home. Absolutely. The company's lifeline is also in finance. If a company's books are a mess, it won't last, and if a rival wants to sabotage us, tampering with the accounts is the easiest way in. As I spoke, I carefully studied the expression on each person's face. Some looked surprised, others dismissive, and a few seemed apprehensive. A guilty conscience. I understood the situation perfectly. Clapping my hands, I said, all right, I get it. A kid who just finished his college entrance exams shouldn't be here bossing you around. Let's just stick to our respective roles and ignore me. I'm only here to get a feel for the process. Hearing this, everyone finally breathed a sigh of relief. If they were really put under the management of an 18-year-old, they wouldn't know how to proceed with their work. Time slipped quietly by. Having worked at Zhou Corp for over half a month, I've managed to get a good grasp of how things operate here. To put it simply, my father's mistake was giving the finance department far too much autonomy, I suppose in his mind. The finance department's only function is to produce reports, right? That's a colossal misconception. The finance department has the power to make or break a company, but then again, my dad came from a technical background, so it's only natural he wouldn't be familiar with this. Come to think of it, he's always been the type to avoid hassle. If he could delegate something entirely, he naturally wouldn't want to get involved. This is exactly what gave Jian Chun the opening he needed in my past life, but now that I'm here in this life, I won't let the Zhou family repeat the same mistakes. Drawing on my past life experience, I revised several management regulations, implementing strict controls over the sources and destinations of all financial department reports. Although the finance department had some complaints, they carried out the changes. Come to think of it, it seems like ages since I've heard any news about Jianchang. The National College entrance exam results are out now, and the first round of university admissions has opened for applications. I opened my social media feed and saw that Jianchang was traveling all over the country with Ruan Nan Nan. In just 20 days, They had journeyed across the length and breadth of the land. At every stop, they would take an affectionate couple photo, as if the whole world existed just for the two of them. I couldn't help but find it a little amusing, and quietly gave the post a like. That very like ended up causing me a lot of trouble down the line, for the Jiang family was still unaware that Jiang Chang had already decided to give up his spots at Tsinghua and Peking University. They had even scheduled the celebration banquet for right after the first round of admissions. As soon as the acceptance letters arrived, they could throw a grand, glorious party, and Jiang Chang, heartless as ever, was only concerned with having fun outside, with no intention whatsoever of explaining himself to the family. A life of privilege from childhood had fostered a bad habit in him. He always assumed that no matter what trouble he stirred up, someone would be there to clean up his mess. But when it truly came down to the Jiang family's reputation and future, did he really think they would still protect him? My college entrance exam results are out too, 711 points. It's not as high as Jiang Chang's, but I'm pretty satisfied. At least I made the cutoff for Tsinghua and Peking University, though I won't have a wide range of majors to choose from. After a lot of thought, I finally settled on a business administration program, which isn't too demanding. Drop by the office when you have a moment, just to make sure everything's running smoothly. Just as I received my letter of admission, the Jiang family's celebration banquet commenced as scheduled. The Zhou family, being a unicorn in the cloud data sector, naturally received an invitation, yet, with the event looming, Jiang Chang was still sightseeing in the Jiangnan region, showing not the slightest urgency to return. In the end, it was Mrs. Jiang who frantically sent a private jet to bring him back. Of course, Wan Nannan came along too. At the college acceptance party, the moment Mrs. Jiang saw Wan Nannan, her face instantly changed. "Son, what are you doing with this woman?" Jiang Chang said dismissively. "She's my girlfriend. What's the problem with us being together?" "No, you shouldn't." Jiang's mother fell silent. She glanced at the distinguished guests around them and knew it wasn't the time to make a scene. I knew she looked down on Wan Nannan. After all, Wan Nannan was just a pretty face, her grades were mediocre, and she lacked the poise of a well-bred young lady. What a perfect picture of an affected, delicate little flower. This is exactly the kind of daughter-in-law a wealthy mother-in-law despises the most. In my past life, it was also Madame Jiang who sweet-talked me, saying I was her favorite choice for a daughter-in-law. She showered me with flattery and empty promises, tricking me into playing the villain. In the end, she slipped away quietly, leaving no trace, while I and the Zhou family were left to bear the full brunt of Jiang Chang's wrath. I sneered as I picked up my teacup, hiding my expression. My dad was still over there, bragging to his colleagues. "My daughter, she may not have scored as high as that Jiang boy, but in my heart, she's the best." He thumped his chest proudly. "You all didn't know, did you? My daughter's been accepted into Tsinghua and Peking University. The acceptance letter has already arrived." Upon hearing this, everyone at the table raised their glasses in celebration. "Mr. Zhou, you have a worthy successor. Congratulations, indeed, Mr. Zhou. It's rare to see a young woman so brilliant. That degree is a real feather in her cap. Looks like you'll be able to attract a fine son-in-law." I frowned slightly but offered no rebuttal. The timing just isn't right. Anything I say now will only make them think I'm full of hot air. My dad, however, said with clear displeasure, "Who says she has to get married? My daughter is so capable. Maybe she'll just go ahead and get me a smart grandson, and we can skip the son-in-law altogether." No one else at the table contradicted him. They just went along with what he was saying. "Exactly, a son-in-law might just have his eye on your family's money. Better to just go abroad and have a good-looking, high IQ baby yourself." Over there, Jiang Chang had hastily changed into formal wear to mingle with the guests. Just as he was speaking, a commotion arose outside the door. Someone shouted, "Old Mr. Jiang is here." Upon hearing this, everyone rose to their feet, grabbing their glasses, eager to exchange a few words with the living legend, hoping for a morsel of his wisdom, or perhaps, to earn his special favor. The benefits would be immeasurable. Old Mr. Jiang is a real force to be reckoned with. Word has it he's well-connected, incredibly capable, and rules with an iron fist. That's how he built the Jiang family into what it is today. He has dozens of grandsons, and every single one of them is vying to inherit the family business. But in the end, the final say still rests with old Mr. Jiang himself. The fact that old Mr. Jiang showed up to Jiang Chang's college celebration dinner speaks volumes about how much he values him. A cold smile played on my lips. I couldn't help but wonder what kind of expression old Mr. Jiang would have when he heard Jiang Chang had voluntarily turned down Tsinghua and Peking University. Jiang's mother nudged Jiang Chang excitedly, her face beaming. "Your great-uncle is here. Go and talk to him." Jiang Chang replied reluctantly, "What's there to talk about? We barely see him a few times a year. How can you talk like that? Whether you inherit the Jiang family or not depends entirely on your great-uncle's word." Jiang Chang sneered dismissively, "I will definitely inherit the Jiang family. What's the rush? It's not time to make my move yet." Seeing that look on his face, I could barely keep a straight face. Does this kid really think that just because he got into some second-tier university, Grandpa Jiang would still value him as much as in the previous life? Old Mr. Jiang exchanged a few casual pleasantries before walking up to Jiang Chang. Chang, you've done well. Which program at Tsinghua or Peking University did you apply to? Your great-uncle still has some connections and can introduce you to a good advisor." But Jiang Chang was destined to let him down. "Grand-uncle, I didn't apply to Tsinghua or Peking University." 5. As soon as these words were spoken, the room erupted in an uproar. What? He didn't apply to Tsinghua or Peking University? Where did he go then? Abroad? With grades that good? Why go abroad? Did Jiang Chang apply to another school? Old Mr. Jiang's smile faded slightly. Chang, which of the top 9 universities did you apply to? Even if it wasn't Tsinghua or Peking University, he could still accept any of the top 9 institutions. To everyone's surprise, Jiang Chang pulled Ruan Nan to his side and declared in a clear, loud voice, "Everyone, this is my girlfriend, Ruan Nan. I'm going to apply to Beijing Institute of Technology with her." His words were met with dead silence. Not even a whisper could be heard. Everyone stared, dumbfounded, in Jiang Chang's direction, while old Mr. Jiang turned pale with rage, his beard trembling. "What did you just say? Say that again." Jiang Chang stared resolutely at old Master Jiang. "Grandfather, I've made up my mind. Ruan Nan is the only woman I'll ever marry. If she's going to apply to Beijing Institute of Technology, then so am I." "How dare you? This is outrageous. You scored over 720 points and you want to apply to a second-tier university. Do you have any idea what you're saying?" Before old Master Jiang could even speak, Mrs. Jiang, her face flushed crimson with rage, charged forward and started grappling with Ruan Nan. "Was it this little vixen who seduced you? Is that why you want to apply to this godforsaken school?" No wonder Mrs. Jiang was so furious. With Ruan Nan's grades, getting into Jinggang University was a pipe dream. The only reason she got into that school was because Jiang Chang's scores were high enough. Jiang Chang must have insisted on enrolling together with Ruan Nan. That's the only reason Jinggang University made an exception and admitted her. Jiang Chang frowned and pulled his mother aside. "Mom, don't talk about her like that. Nan just isn't cut out for academics. She's a good person, and she's really hardworking and driven." "Nonsense. What good is being hardworking and driven? All that effort and she only got into a second-tier university. Doesn't that just prove she's not capable?" Just as the situation was about to escalate into a full-blown argument, old Mr. Jiang rapped his cane on the floor. Mrs. Jiang immediately fell silent, lowering her head and not daring to look at him. Old Mr. Jiang glanced at Jiang Chang. "Have you really thought this through? You want to go to Beijing Institute of Technology?" Jiang Chang stood tall and declared, "Yes, in this life, I only have eyes for Nan. Good. That's the spirit." With that, old Mr. Jiang turned and walked away without another word. Jiang Chang was beaming with pride, thinking it was his own commanding presence that had impressed old Mr. Jiang and made him stop giving him a hard time. But Mrs. Jiang knew exactly how serious the situation was. Panic-stricken, she cried out, "Dad, don't listen to his nonsense. I'll make him repeat the year immediately and reapply to Tsinghua or Peking University." From behind her, Jiang Chang whined petulantly, "Mom, I'm not repeating the year. Don't even bother." "Shut up, you idiot." Mrs. Jiang was seething with rage, but old Mr. Jiang had already vanished without a trace. The atmosphere at the scene grew intensely awkward. What was meant to be a joyous occasion had devolved into this sorry state. The gossip mill was running wild, yet, in front of the Jiang family, no one dared utter another word. An awkward silence fell over everyone. After just a few rounds of dishes, people began putting down their chopsticks and quietly slipping away. Naturally, I left as well. Before I left, I glanced in Jiang Chang's direction. He seemed to be arguing with his mother. Jiang Chang's look of utter defiance stood in stark contrast to the exasperation on his mother's face. I couldn't help but find the whole thing rather amusing. What's the point of butting heads with Jiang Chang? Just let him have his way and watch him ruin himself. It's a shame Mrs. Jiang didn't understand this. My dad was still muttering in my ear, has that Jiang boy lost his mind? He's giving up Tsinghua or Peking University for some second-rate college, all for a girl. I laughed and said, he believes love conquers all. If he's willing to choose love, there's nothing we can say about it. Love, my foot, that girl never struck me as the loyal type. Just watch, if Jiang Chang lost all his money, do you think she'd stick around? I couldn't have agreed more, but I kept my thoughts to myself. What happened next is beyond me. All I know is that Jiang Chang lost all interest in posting updates to his social media. The whole Jiang family was thrown into complete turmoil over this mess with Jiang Chang. The reason was simple. The entire Jiang family had taken it for granted that Jiang Chang would get into Tsinghua or Peking University, so they had invited many prominent figures from the capital to the celebration banquet, but in the end, they discovered that Jiang Chang hadn't even applied during the regular admissions period. In other words, even if he scored perfectly, Tsinghua or Peking University wouldn't accept him now, unless Jiang Chang repeats his final year of high school and reapplies to get into Tsinghua or Peking University, he'll have no choice but to attend that so-called Beijing Institute of Technology. Jiang Chang was stubborn as a mule. He'd rather starve himself at home in protest than go back to repeat the school year, and for Wan Nanan's sake, he kept threatening to jump off a building to go find her. This scared Mrs. Jiang so much she didn't dare lock him up anymore. In the end, left with no other choice, she came to me again. Ching, you're the closest to a Chang. Please, talk some sense into him, I'm begging you. Please, make him see reason and stop this foolishness. Alright. I watched her performance with cold detachment. I tried to talk sense into her in my past life, and what good did it do me? After Jiang Chang graduated and took over the Jiang family business, his mother saw every single one of his calculated moves against the Zhou family, yet she did nothing to stop him. In fact, she even lent a hand behind the scenes. It all boils down to her thinking I wasn't good enough for the Jiang family. In Mrs. Jiang's eyes, I'm nothing but a tool. I'm not doing a thankless job a second time. 6. I pretended to be in a difficult spot and said, Auntie, it's not that I don't want to help, but the legs belong to a Chang. I can't just go and break them for you, can I? Mrs. Jiang choked up. What I'm trying to say, dear, is that I want you to talk him into retaking the exams. After all, education is so crucial these days. If he only gets into some run-of-the-mill second-tier university, he'll have absolutely no chance of inheriting the Jiang family business. I nodded in firm agreement. Have you spoken to Jiang Chang about this? Did you make it clear that if he persists down this foolish path, the Jiang Corporation will be forever out of his reach? Of course I did, but that boy, sigh, he's utterly convinced he's destined to take over the family business. I simply can't get through to him. I couldn't help but feel a secret thrill. It seemed Jiang Chang was still basking in the afterglow of his high exam scores. Does he really think the Jiang family fortune is already in his pocket? Little does he know, among the dozens of Jiang family descendants, there are several who could give him a real run for his money, and now, by choosing to attend a second-tier university, he's practically crippling his own future prospects, and he's still sitting there feeling smug about it. I sighed. Auntie, if he wouldn't even listen to you when you put it so strongly, what makes you think he'd listen to me? Zhang's mother suddenly changed her expression, her voice low and accusing. I saw his social media, you liked his post, you knew he was in a relationship, didn't you? With all this drama, anyone would think I'm Jiang Chang's mother. What does Jiang Chang ruining his own future over some romance have to do with me? I took a sip of tea, a bit confused, but you saw it too, didn't you? Mrs. Jiang was agitated. He blocked me. You knew he was in a relationship. And that he went on a trip with his girlfriend. Why didn't you tell me? I threw my hands up. How was I supposed to know you were blocked? I looked utterly innocent. Mrs. Jiang was momentarily speechless, then grew even angrier. You and Ah Chang grew up together since childhood. I always thought highly of you and wanted you to be my daughter-in-law. But now, some woman who came out of nowhere has taken your place, and you don't even seem to care. I'm truly disappointed. I find it rather amusing. Who his son chooses to date is hardly something I can control, is it? So, you're blaming others for your own failure as a parent. What a clever move. I set down my cup. Sorry, Auntie, but I have to go help out at the company. I won't keep you any longer. I'll visit you again when I have time. With that, I stood up and left directly, hearing my words. Mrs. Jiang trembled with rage. After all, according to her plan, Jiang Chang should have been securing a position in the family business by now, working hard to expand his influence. Who would have thought that Jiang Chang, completely love-struck, would just spend all his time taking his girlfriend out and about, with none of his former drive and ambition. Zhou Corporation, my work at the company is finally getting on track, and I've really hit it off with the staff. They all call me young Master Zhou with a smile. Is it true that Mr. Zhou is about to start at Tsinghua or Peking University? I nodded. Wow, impressive, Mr. Zhou. You can't judge a book by its cover. You're actually a top student at Tsinghua or Peking. Watch your mouth. Be careful, or Mr. Zhou might dock your bonus later. No way, Mr. Zhou is such a great guy. He'd never dock my bonus. I heard there's another young master from a prominent family in the capital who's lost his mind. He actually got into Tsinghua or Peking University, but gave it all up for love. I really don't know what he was thinking. I think they said he was from the Jiang family. Seriously, a hopeless romantic. But shouldn't a young master from a family like that be studying hard to take over the family business? How could anyone just throw that away for love? That's exactly why we say he's lost his marbles. Not like our young Mr. Zhou here. He's keeping up with his studies while also getting to know the ropes at the company. We'll be counting on you to have our backs from now on, boss. The group chatted and laughed about Jiang Cheng's situation. Little did they know, the very person they were gossiping about would show up at their doorstep that very afternoon. Zhou Muqing, what did you say to my mother? Jiang Chang stormed into my office in a rage. I raised an eyebrow slightly. How did you get up here? Surely Zhou Corp's reception desk isn't just for show. Before I could think it through, Jiang Chang snapped angrily. Never mind all that. Just tell me, was it you who put my mother up to forcing me to repeat the year? She even tried to tamper with my college application. Luckily, I caught her in the act. I never would have imagined that John's mother would resort to such extreme measures. I shook my head. Your mom came to see me before, wanting me to talk some sense into you, but I didn't agree. After all, I think love is more important, don't you? Jiang Chang was taken aback. Wasn't it you who persuaded my mom to make me repeat the school year? I was utterly shocked. If I didn't approve of you and Nan Nan being together, I would have stopped you long before you even accepted her confession, wouldn't I? Jiang Chang thought it over carefully, and it did seem to make sense. He even began to doubt himself, wondering why he had rushed over to the Zhou family's place in the first place. Sorry, Qing. I think I misunderstood you, I said with a smile. It's all right. What can I say? I'm your childhood friend, after all. So, what's your next move? Jiang Chang chuckled. I'm planning to take Nan Nan on the rest of our trip. We've still got about 2/3 of it left. Oh, by the way, Qing, what major did you pick for university? Business administration. What a coincidence. I chose the same one. After I graduate, I'm still going to take over the entire Jiang family business. I smiled and said, Jiang Chang, I believe in you. True talent will shine through no matter where it is. Absolutely. 7. Jiang Chang was utterly convinced of this. I heard that after he left my place, he went home, took all his savings, and then left the capital with Ruan Nan Nan. Old Mr. Jiang is a man of remarkable composure. Despite the string of humiliating incidents caused by Jiang Chang, he somehow managed to keep his temper in check. But anyone with a discerning eye could see that from now on, Jiang Chang and his entire branch of the family would never set foot on the Jiang family stage again. After the university semester began, I successfully stepped onto the campus of Tsinghua University. In my previous life, although I attended the same university as Jiang Chang, I was always stuck cleaning up his messes. He needed people for his project, so I handled the hiring, the necessary funding. I took care of raising the required connections. I went out and found, and in just 4 years, we managed to build a formidable business empire for Jiang Chang. Looking back, I was such a fool in my past life. With all that energy, wouldn't it have been better to start my own business? I just had to go and be a corporate drone. I must have been out of my mind. After coming to this realization, I started a small company as soon as I entered university, focusing on a short-form video app. After all, my rebirth has pushed the timeline forward by a full 8 years. At this point, major short video apps haven't yet taken off, leaving the entire field wide open. The situation is highly favorable for me. Tsinghua and Peking universities truly live up to their reputation as the nation's top institutions. I merely outlined my business vision, and I immediately recruited a solid team, With the 5 million in seed funding from my mom and the existing server infrastructure from Zhou Corp. In just a year and a half, an app called Tremor was born. When the app first launched, most people didn't quite understand its purpose. I wasn't in a hurry. I proactively took my team and jumped in to show them how it's done. Witty skits, short and snappy content, and a never-ending stream of hilarious creators. In no time, we had produced several videos with tens of millions of views. That wave of traffic quickly made us a household name domestically. A significant number of young users downloaded our app, eager to stay in the loop with trending topics. Team lead Joe. Our downloads have surpassed 10 million, and our rating is over 4.5 stars. You do realize a perfect score is only 5 stars, right? Countless apps have been around for years without even hitting 4 stars, let alone maintaining that rating after surpassing 10 million downloads. And we've only been live for about a month. Yet we're already at 4.5 stars. I snapped my fingers. This is just the beginning, my friends. Think bigger, aim higher. China has a user base of over 1 billion people. The other team members stared at me, wide-eyed. Team leader Zhou, you can't possibly be thinking of getting the entire country to download this app, can you? I smiled faintly. And why is that impossible, even if it were? As students of Tsinghua University, it's our duty to make the impossible possible, yes. Well said, choosing to follow you was definitely the right call. Team lead Zhou, you're a legend. I dare say your idea is truly one of a kind, unprecedented and unlikely to be matched. I waved my hand dismissively. It's the times that have shaped me. I'm merely standing on the shoulders of giants to see a bit further. Given the initial success of the Tremor app, I had each team member sign a supplementary contract, outlining the allocation of founders' shares and stock options. The goal is to go public within this year, and with these achievements of mine, the entire Zhou family shares in the honor. My father praises his daughter to anyone who will listen. My daughter Qingqing has been independent and strong-willed since she was a child. I never had to worry about her studies. She got herself into Tsinghua or Peking University all on her own. Once in college, not only did she focus on her academics, but she also regularly interned and observed at Zhou Corp. And she still found the time to develop some app called Tremolo. I originally thought this app was just some youthful folly, so I let her have her fun. But who would have guessed that the moment her app launched, it got tens of millions of downloads? What do they call that? The student has surpassed the master. My dad was bragging about my achievements again at the dinner table. The uncles at the table all chimed in agreement, but their expressions held a hint of disdain. The first wave of users to download TikTok were mostly young people. After all, they're older and don't really understand TikTok's influence. They just assumed I'd brought home another frivolous, money-wasting gadget. After all, which wealthy family doesn't have a spendthrift heir? Rich kids all love to dabble in startups, but how many of them actually achieve anything in the end? Hardly any. That's why they say, a rich kid squandering money is one thing, but a rich kid starting a business is the real nightmare. They were all flattering my dad to his face, but who knows what they were really thinking. My dad, for his part, was thoroughly enjoying it. Meanwhile, my mom kept calling me nonstop, asking if I had enough funding. It's more than enough, Mom. We're using our own data cloud and servers, so it hardly costs a thing. The biggest expenses right now are the technology and venue fees. Thanks to the Zhous, I was able to secure a larger share of the original stock, and no one really objected. After all, the idea was mine, the servers are mine, the data cloud is mine, and I even built the team from the ground up. Even if I took 50% of the original shares, they couldn't say a word. I didn't sit idle either. After the software launched, I oversaw the team's tech innovations while also keeping my personal account updated. I have a bit of a collector's mentality, so naturally, my account serial number is number 1. I often post personal comedy skits on my account. Every short video I upload becomes something everyone rushes to imitate. Before long, my account's follower count hit the 1 million mark. As more and more users downloaded the app, my follower count just kept climbing higher and higher. 8. The Douyin trend has finally made its way to Jiangchang. After 2.5 years, Jiangchang finally remembered me, his childhood friend, seeing my influence growing. He finally sent me a text message, "Hey Ching, how have you been lately?" Seeing Jiangchang's name pop up in my contact list, I couldn't help but frown. The deputy team leader, noticing my expression, leaned in curiously. "What's up, boss? Who's got you all worked up?" I shook my head. "Just some idiot, don't worry about it." I found a quiet corner and casually replied, sounds good. The chat box showed he was typing, but several long, drawn-out minutes passed without Jiang Chang sending another message. I knew he hadn't been doing well lately. He stubbornly insisted on applying to a second-tier university, determined to study and graduate alongside Ruan Nannan. Old Mr. Jiang began to gradually distance himself from their branch of the family, and the entire Jiang Chang household started to be slowly edged out from the core of the Jiang family's affairs. Jiang's father was furious. He made several scenes, even threatening to drag Jiang Chang back home and force him to repeat his final year of high school. The situation escalated all the way to the police station. After several heated arguments that nearly turned physical, it ended with Jiang's father unilaterally declaring he was cutting ties with his son. Since we've cut ties, it's only natural that the household allowance would stop too, but Jiang Chang should still have some savings left. Though whether it's enough for Ruan Nannan's expenses is another matter. I figured that Jiang Chang reaching out to me at this critical juncture was probably to borrow money. Sure enough, his very next words were, "Ching, could you lend me some money?" I raised an eyebrow. "How much? Let me see if I have it." Not much, just $1 million. I need to start a business." $1 million, I could come up with it, but I didn't want to throw good money after bad. I feigned surprise. "What kind of business? That's a lot of money, you know. I'm tied up with my own project right now, and I'm a bit short on cash." Jiang Chang paused for a moment, then quickly sent a message. "You don't have the money, but you can just ask your father for it. $1 million is nothing to the Zhou family, right?" I let out a cold laugh. Since when does Jiang Chang get to decide whether or not I ask my father for money? What an entitled attitude. I can't help but feel a bit annoyed. Just because Jiang Chang is short on money, am I supposed to hand it over to him unconditionally? It was the same in my past life. He took every resource directly from my hands without a shred of gratitude. He just took it for granted. How could I possibly let him have his way in this life? "Young Master Jiang, you know my family is in the data cloud business. That requires massive server infrastructure and technical support. The monthly costs for servers and tech fees alone are no small sum. Where would my family get that kind of spare cash for me to play around with? Well, Ching, can't you help me figure something out? You're the only one I can rely on. Once my project goes live, it's guaranteed to be a hit. You have to believe me." Jiang Chang was desperately trying to make his case. "I've already recruited quite a few people. The team is almost fully formed. We're just a little short on funding. If you invest, I promise I'll pay you back, or if you don't want cash, I can give you equity instead. How about that?" I knew exactly what Jiang Chang was trying to do. In his previous life, his idea was actually pretty solid. He built a food delivery app himself, launched it at Tsinghua and Peking University, and after it took off, he rapidly expanded it across the capital and eventually the whole country. Back then, the entire food delivery industry was a blue ocean with virtually no competition, which allowed Jiang Chang to secure his first pot of gold. But that was in a past life. Starting only at this point in this life is already too late. If he had done it right at the start of university, he would have been a pioneer. Doing it now feels like he's just scrambling for scraps left by others, but that doesn't mean it's impossible to succeed, provided he has enough capital and resources to pour into it. A degree from Tsinghua or Peking University can be considered part of that capital. At least it makes others willing to trust him, fund him, and invest in him. Unfortunately, in this life, Jiang Chang attended Beijing Institute of Technology. Even if he's incredibly talented and a silver-tongued orator, people still might not be willing to invest in him. Stroking my chin, I thought, rather than investing in Jiang Chang, I might as well run this business myself. Well, if I'm already building a TikTok-like app, what's one more food delivery software on the side? It's just that this requires a lot more startup capital. Where on earth am I supposed to get it? Seeing that I wasn't responding, Jiang Chang was starting to get anxious. Ching, I can sign an IOU, lend me $1 million, and in 5 years, I'll pay you back $5 million or the equivalent in shares. How about it? Such a paltry sum was naturally beneath my notice. A mere $4 million, that's nothing compared to the quarterly dividends I earn from my current shares. Just take my one influencer account, for example. If it's properly nurtured, it can generate nearly $10 million in annual income. After much deliberation, I finally replied, "I'll ask my dad for you, but I can't promise it'll work out." "Really? That's fantastic. Thank you. Ching, you're a lifesaver." He spoke as if I had already secured the loan for him. I didn't bother to correct him and instead headed straight to the Zhou residence to find my father. Of course, My purpose wasn't to help Jiangchang borrow money. 9. I went directly to the Zhou residence and asked, Dad, how much money do you have available here? My dad looked skeptical at this. What's wrong, Qingqing? Do you need a lot of money? I thought for a moment. It's not so much that I need money, but rather that I need a huge number of servers. My dad was utterly dumbfounded. You're already using so many servers, and it's still not enough. I grinned. What a coincidence. I've just had another new idea. A new idea. My dad's eyes lit up instantly. What idea? Tell me about it, son. I'll get the funding for the servers. The success of Tremolo had made my dad a true believer in my abilities. The moment I mention a new idea, he practically sees dollar signs. A fortune. I smiled faintly and began to lay out my idea. After a brief introduction, my dad had a basic understanding of this food delivery app. Well, Qingqing, I don't mean to discourage you, but I feel like I've heard of this thing somewhere. Isn't it a bit late for you to start on this now? I shook my head. Dad, we're established in the capital, we have a mature team and technical support, and we're backed by the giant that is Douyin. What could possibly be so difficult? As long as we partner with merchants by district, offer appropriate subsidies, and recruit a strong team, we're bound to carve out our own success. And besides, if all else fails, we've got Douyin as our safety net, right? Hearing this, my dad slapped his thigh. You're absolutely right, my girl. If this works out, we'll make a fortune. If it doesn't, we'll just lose the initial investment. I'm behind you. Soon after, the servers I needed and the startup capital were transferred to my account. Tremor is now in a phase of stable and robust growth. When I went back and discussed the food delivery app idea with the team, it was met with enthusiastic approval from all sides. We were all instantly on the same page. Call it a gut feeling. But this thing is going to be huge, boss. Don't go through the hassle of recruiting externally. Why don't we just pull some people from the tech department to form a new team? Exactly. We could also implement single sign-on. Users who have Douyin can use their Douyin account to log into the food delivery app and order local takeout directly. How convenient would that be? Plus, by doing it ourselves, we avoid having to give away more equity. We're all part of the same company. No need to let outsiders get a piece of the pie. But what about the mapping data? And who's going to recruit and manage the delivery personnel? I chuckled. Don't worry, I've already struck a deal with a certain navigation service. They're willing to share their data and services with us. We just need to pay a monthly fee. As for the delivery department, we'll have the deputy team lead spin up a new team to handle it from scratch. MAP, isn't that the top dog in domestic navigation? How much would a month of their service even cost? I held up a finger. Not much, just this much. $1 million, no, 10 million. The deputy team leader nearly jumped out of his chair. 10 million, where are we supposed to get that kind of money? The cost is way too high. Boss, don't do anything reckless. I blinked. So we'll have to expand the market ourselves. Our initial promotional strategy is crucial too. How about we start by giving out cash rewards? Just think about it, everyone. How many shops and restaurants are there across China? How many hundreds of millions of people need to eat? This market is absolutely massive. A mere 10 million will be earned back in no time. Everyone exchanged glances. Then, someone gritted his teeth and spoke up. Screw the cost, boss, I'm in. But let's get one thing straight. You can't touch my original shares in Tremor. Don't worry, don't worry. The more you work, the more you earn. I'm very fair. After all, we're a well-oiled technical team, leveraging our prior experience. It only took us 3 months to get a food delivery app called Chow Time listed on the app stores. At the same time, a significant advertising campaign for Chow Time was launched on Vibrato. Any new user who downloads Chow Time from the Vibrato platform can claim a red envelope coupon worth 100 yuan. With the support of billions of views on Douyin, Kaifanlu skyrocketed to become the top downloaded food delivery app. In today's information-driven society, you have to remember, traffic equals money. Backed by Douyin's massive platform, Kaifanlu was practically guaranteed to be a hit. With that initial momentum snowballing, we didn't have to lift a finger. Businesses of all sizes came knocking, eager to partner with us. Even a certain major platform couldn't resist approaching me for a long-term contract, so I naturally seized the chance to negotiate a rock-bottom price. After all, they had no idea just how huge Kaifanlu's future potential was, and genuinely thought they'd scored a bargain. Meanwhile, over there, Jiangcheng waited and waited, but my investment never materialized. When he finally looked around, he saw that Tremor had launched a new food delivery app called Kaifanlu. Jiang Chang was so furious he could spit blood. Without a second thought, he sent me a WeChat message to confront me. Ching, how could you steal my idea? I never thought you were this kind of person. You deliberately stalled me just so you could beat me to it and do what I wanted to do. After all these years growing up together, you'd actually scheme against me. Are you even human? Ching, say something. Do you think staying silent will get you out of paying for the damages? 10. God only knows how much Jiang Chang suffered, running around Beijing University of Technology recruiting people and practically begging on his knees to scrape together the funds. But in the blink of an eye, I swooped in and plucked the fruits of victory for myself. How could Jiang Chang not be furious, seething with resentment? He kept bombarding me with messages. Ching, how could you do this to me? You're stealing my idea. How can you live with yourself? How do you sleep at night? Reading those relentless accusations on WeChat, I couldn't help but find it a little amusing. Chang, what on earth are you talking about? What idea of yours did I supposedly steal? The food delivery app. That Kai Fan Le app of yours. You stole the idea for my food delivery platform. I feigned surprise. What? You never told me you wanted to make a food delivery app. How was I supposed to know? Besides, several different food delivery apps had already launched before you even mentioned borrowing money. Are you saying you stole someone else's idea too? Back then, I was just trying to get a small piece of the pie in the Beijing scene. What's more, my app is built on top of the Tremor platform. Without Tremor's data infrastructure, I never could have reached this scale. Every single word I said struck right at Jiang Chang's heart. He quickly scrolled forward, only to realize that in his effort to guard against me, he had never actually told me what he intended to do. In other words, I couldn't possibly have plagiarized him. No, how could this be? Why? Jiang Chang's face was a mask of disbelief. In agony, he tore at his own hair, muttering incessantly under his breath, "It's all the Jiang family's fault. If they hadn't cast me out, I'd have had the capital to start my own business. This idea would have been mine alone. I should be the one making money now." How laughable that in this life, with no way to blame me, he could only turn his resentment on the Jiang family. The team Jiang Chang had painstakingly assembled began to desert him one by one after witnessing the success of Kai Fan Lu. After all, the rise of a giant means they won't even get a chance to pick up the scraps. No one in their right mind would waste their youth on it, unless they had the capital to compete with the software already on the market. But it was painfully obvious that Jiang Chang lacked that very capital. I developed 2 apps in a row, each with over 50 million downloads. This made many of the prominent families in the capital sit up and take notice of me, and even the Zhou family by extension. Who would have thought that a small unicorn startup back then could raise a daughter capable of creating 2 completely different, blockbuster apps? For a time, prominent families seeking marriage alliances with our Zhou family practically wore out our doorstep. My father, however, kept politely declining their proposals, using my young age as an excuse to buy more time. But the truth is, my father simply believed none of those families were good enough for me. Anyone with eyes can see that Douyin and Kuaishou have incredibly bright prospects. If everything goes smoothly, they could even become #1 in the world when that time comes. Forget about these old money Beijing families. Even the world's top oligarchs wanting to marry into our family would probably give my dad pause for thought. I'm not the one who said that. My dad did when he had a bit too much to drink at our family's New Year's banquet. At the dinner table, relatives clinked glasses and exchanged toasts, their conversation filled with flattery. Qingqing has really made something of herself. I heard her 2 software programs can earn 100 million a year. That's nothing. I heard it's more like 1 billion. No, make that 10 billion. A Tsinghua or Peking University graduate, as expected, truly worthy of the nation's top institutions. Absolutely. Remember that Jiang Chang from the Jiang family? He chose Beijing Tech and became a laughingstock. I heard he even tried to copy Qingqing's business venture, but his team fell apart before he could even scrape together the startup capital. That's because he has no talent for managing people. Just look at how well our Qingqing is doing. You said it. You have no idea how snooty the Jiangs were back then. Jiang Chang's mother always thought our Qingqing wasn't good enough for her son. Look at them now, worlds apart. Once Qingqing's company goes public, I bet it'll lift our Zhou family business to a whole new level. By the way, Qingqing, do you have any other promising projects? How about introducing a few to the family? We're all relatives here. It wouldn't be right to keep letting outsiders get all the good deals, would it? I knew exactly what they were after. The company behind those 2 apps was one I founded back in school. They didn't get any shares, so they couldn't even get a taste of the profits. Now, they're just trying to see if they can squeeze something more out of me. I replied with a smile, actually, yes. But the initial investment required is quite substantial. The project I'm currently working on has a funding gap of around 10 billion. If any of you are interested, we can discuss it in private. Hearing this, everyone fell silent. 100 billion. That's a bit of an exaggeration. Haha, haha, ching ching. Are you pulling your uncle's leg? Alright, never mind. No sincerity, let's just drink. That's right. I'm making things difficult for them on purpose. These so-called relatives of the Zhou family are utterly useless. All they do is freeload off the family dividends, sit on their shares, and wait to die without contributing a single thing. And when the Zhou family business faced bankruptcy and collapse in the previous life, they quickly transferred their own assets and ran for the hills. They didn't give a damn about whether our family lived or died. Some people are even colluding with the Jiang family in secret, just to get a bigger piece of the pie. I'm well aware of all this. Did they really think they could hitch a ride on my family's success this time around? They must be dreaming. 11. After the dinner party ended, my dad quietly leaned in and asked, "Sweetheart, what kind of project are you working on that needs 10 billion? Before I could even explain, my dad said through gritted teeth, "Zhou Corp's liquid assets might be tight right now, but we could probably scrape together 10 billion if we really tried." Maybe we could. I didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Dad, I was just saying that to get rid of them. Don't take it seriously, just send them away. My dad was puzzled. Their family, what's the harm in bringing them into the business? Why are you being so stingy, sweetheart? Who on earth do you take after? I shook my head. Dad, do you trust me? Or do you trust them? What a question. Of course I trust you. Then listen to me. Don't let the Zhou family get involved. When we're stronger, we can throw them a bone, but right now we absolutely cannot let them in to muddy the waters. They'll only mess up our grand plans. Alright, father will do as you say. By the end of my junior year, both Tremolo and Chow Time were running smoothly and on the right track. I had earned enough credits and was contemplating whether to take the helm of the Zhou family business or focus on managing my own little corner of the world. Meanwhile, the Jiang family made a complete fool of themselves. Hey, boss, remember that so-called genius from the Jiang family, the one who aced the Tsinghua Beta entrance exams and got into the independent enrollment program, then ended up going to Beijing Institute of Technology? What a joke. I nodded. Did he cause more trouble? I heard when it was time for his internship, the Jiang family only gave him a branch office manager position. The deputy team leader leaned in with a gossipy gleam in his eye, whispering, I heard that young master felt old Mr. Jiang was playing favorites. He threw a huge tantrum at Jiang Corp, demanding a completely new position, said anything less was beneath his status. Beijing Polytechnic is just a second-tier university, and Jiang Cheng hasn't achieved anything noteworthy in his 3 years there. Landing a branch manager position is actually pretty good for him. I couldn't help but sneer. Who does this Jiang Cheng think he is? God's gift to the world. Does he really think someone from a mere technical university like Jingangda can just waltz in and take over the Jiang family's enterprise? What a pipe dream. The deputy team leader was still venting. This Jiang Cheng chose love back then, and now he wants to have his cake and eat it too. What on earth is he thinking? Does he believe the whole world revolves around him? The team member beside him chimed in agreement. Exactly. The competition within the Jiang family was already cutthroat. If he had gotten into Tsinghua or Peking University, he might have stood a fighting chance. But now he's thrown away his own advantage by settling for that mediocre Beijing Institute of Technology. And he still expects the same preferential treatment. He's dreaming, if you ask me. After all that drama of cutting ties with his father, now he comes crawling back to the Jiang group for a handout, and he still has the nerve to act so high and mighty. He's completely lost touch with reality, and now he's made a huge scene, turning himself into a laughingstock for the whole city. Old Mr. Jiang probably dislikes him even more now. Serves him right. He's lived nearly half his life and still can't figure out what he really wants. What good are good grades? He's just a book-smart fool. So, what's the deal with his girlfriend? It was unclear who had brought up the topic. They're still together, I think, but probably not for much longer. Yeah, I heard through the grapevine that Jiang Cheng and his girlfriend have been seen arguing in the school grove several times. It's always about money, of course. Absolutely. If love can come for money, it can certainly leave for money. Hearing that, I smiled. Without the boundless glory of her past life, why would Ruan Nannan stay by Jiang Cheng's side forever? I rapped on the table. Alright, enough about other people's gossip. Is our financial report ready? We need to submit the IPO application soon." Upon hearing this, the crowd instantly scattered in all directions. I couldn't help but let out a soft chuckle. Who would have thought that by no longer being Jian Cheng's lackey and doormat, I could actually achieve something so remarkable? It wasn't until the Nasdaq bell rang that I finally snapped out of my daze. As if waking from a deep dream, I was surrounded by all the classmates I had journeyed with during my university years. Every face was beaming with the smile of success. The sound of that bell would bestow a fortune of over 10 billion on each of them. From that moment on, they themselves were considered among the elite. The victory celebration lasted for 7 days and 7 nights. I went all out and rented a villa in the city center for the party venue. Everyone was letting loose, celebrating and enjoying the fruits of our labor from the past 3+ years. Just as the fun was at its peak, my phone rang. It was a call from my dad. "Sweetie, are you free right now?" My father's voice was uncharacteristically panicked. I stepped into a quiet spot. "Dad, what's wrong? Are you okay?" "I'm fine, but there's a small issue with the Zhou family's account books. The tax authorities are already at the door, in the department you used to manage. Is there anyone you think might be suspicious?" Hearing this, my heart gave a sudden lurch. Why is this happening again? Just like before, I frowned with concern. "Dad, are you really okay? Where are you right now?" "I'm at the office. The tax bureau is still investigating, but don't worry, it'll probably be fine." How could it possibly be fine? Last time, my dad was actually hauled into the station, interrogated for over a week, and then finally thrown into a detention center. The torment he went through during that time was no joke. I lost all interest in the party. "Dad, don't panic, I'm coming home right now." "Hey now, sweetheart, don't you rush either. This whole thing might just be a misunderstanding. You enjoy yourself and don't you worry about your old man." I didn't reply. I hung up the phone, immediately booked a return flight, and rushed back to the capital. 12, just as I feared. By the time I got back to Zhou Corp, my father had already been taken to the police station for questioning. The atmosphere at Zhou Corp was one of palpable anxiety. Everyone was at their desk, but you could see the restlessness written all over their faces. With their CEO hauled off to the police station, the very survival of the company is now in question. I rushed to the finance department in a panic and tracked down my former subordinates. When they saw me, they averted their eyes, unable to meet my gaze. Seeing this, I understood the situation. "What's going on?" I demanded. "Can someone explain this to me? What's wrong with the accounts, Mr. Zhou?" "That's not it. We truly had no knowledge of this matter." "Exactly. The tax filings and reports we submitted every month were completely fine. Who knew the tax bureau would find issues as soon as they showed up?" I snapped. "You're all top graduates from prestigious universities. Don't you know in your hearts whether the accounts are in order or not?" No one replied. I slammed the table in anger. "Bring me all the reports, now, I'll look at them myself." "Yes, right away, Mr. Zhou." The materials were gathered very quickly. I pored over every page, careful not to miss a single piece of data, but the more I looked, the more something felt off. This is so suspicious. Every page of the data looks perfectly normal. On what grounds is the tax bureau arresting my father? Could it be, it's not about the accounts? My palms broke out in a cold sweat. If that's really the case, then we're in serious trouble. I dropped the reports and ran straight for the police station. When he saw me in the visitation room, my father, a middle-aged man, couldn't hold back his tears and began to cry. "Ching, why did you come back? I told you I was fine and that you didn't need to come." I rolled my eyes. "If I didn't come back, you'd be headed for jail." "It's fine, I know my own tax situation. There's absolutely no problem. Your taxes might be fine, but can you vouch for the people above you?" Hearing this, my dad was visibly taken aback. "You mean?" I nodded. "This is a bit of a tricky situation. It might take me some time to sort it out. Just wait for me." "Dad, all right, sweetheart, don't push yourself too hard. If it comes to it, I'll just do a few years. It's fine, just don't let this drag your company into it." I didn't reply. I just turned and left. Fortunately, after the company went public, the two things I have in abundance are time and money. I delegated most of the work to a few of my former deputy team leaders. I have complete confidence in them handling the company's affairs. Over at Zhou Corporation, the CEO is managing things. Even though there are some tax issues, the situation hasn't been officially determined yet, and all company operations are still running normally. I hired a private investigator and had the entire matter, from beginning to end, thoroughly investigated. When I received the investigation report, I couldn't help but let out a cold, scornful laugh. That damn Jiang Chang, he's like a goddamn ghost that just won't leave me alone. I cursed under my breath and tucked the findings away. You've done well, here's your payment. I pulled out a thick envelope and slid it across the table. The man in the low-brimmed hat across the booth said in a low voice, "This is a complicated matter. Your Zhou family has no backing. How do you plan to handle it?" I stood up, my face betraying no emotion. Since the Jiang family started this mess, we'll settle it with the Jiang family. That's right, the troublemaker is none other than Jiang Chang. Even though the Jiang family only gave him a manager's position, after his big scene, not only did his situation not improve, it actually got worse. The main branch of the Jiang family, both openly and in private, held an attitude of disregard, even disdain, towards him. Jiang Cheng also knew that now was not the time to act spoiled and arrogant, especially since he had no favor left to rely on. He had no choice but to hold his nose and take the internship, but Wan Nannan was furious. After all, the other Jiang family heirs, barring any mishaps, were guaranteed at least a subsidiary company of their own. But what about Jiang Cheng? He had to start as a mere branch manager. How long will it take to work my way up to running a company? Wan Nannan could never endure such hardship for so long. You have to understand, over the past few years, Jiang Cheng had already spent his entire fortune just to keep her happy. By the time his junior year internship rolled around, Jiang Cheng was already completely broke. The only reason Wan Nannan is still holding her nose and sticking with him is that she's waiting to get her hands on the subsidiary company's money to splurge. And now, Jiang Cheng is just some lousy manager. The measly salary he pulls in each month can't even cover her expenses. After all the back and forth, the two of them broke up, just as expected. Having lost his education, his love, and his power and status, Jiang Cheng spiraled into a state of extreme emotional turmoil. First, he went home and caused a huge scene with Mr. and Mrs. Jiang, even getting physical, as if he were ready to fight to the death. To redirect the hatred, Mrs. Jiang naturally had to pin the blame on an outsider, and I was that outsider. 13. It's all Zhou Muqing's fault. Back then, she knew full well you were dating that wretched Wan Nannan. Instead of coming to tell me, she'd rather lurk in the background, liking posts and stirring up trouble. If she had told me, I would have never let you lose your chance to attend Tsinghua or Peking University. If you had gone to one of those schools, you'd still be the pride and joy of the Jiang family. Heck, you might even be running the main company by now. Tell me, isn't it all that woman Zhou Muqing's fault? In the end, after all that talk, Jiang Cheng actually bought into his mother's twisted logic and ended up resenting my Zhou family along with her. But revenge requires money too. Besides, after my reforms to the Zhou family's finance department, the official books are practically flawless. If we're going to act, it'll have to be under the table. For instance, trumped-up charges. Jiang Cheng liquidated every usable asset he had at home, then pulled some strings with someone at the tax bureau. But his funds were far too limited. The tax bureau contact agreed to help him take down the Zhou family, but refused to move against Tremolo and Chow Time. After all, when I first set up those two project teams, I had already factored in the issue of political connections. Nearly a third of the team members I recruited had various powerful connections in the capital. Even with their ironclad connections at the tax bureau, the Jiang family wouldn't dare provoke half the aristocratic families in the capital. So after much deliberation, the Zhou family seemed like the easiest target to squeeze. Blinded by hatred, how could Jiang Cheng possibly think that far ahead? He spent his entire fortune just to have my father thrown behind bars. The most famous and dazzling young female entrepreneur in Huagua has a biological father who is a criminal. That's a terrible thing to have get out. That's probably exactly what Jiang Cheng is counting on. I sneered. Anything he can solve by throwing money at it, I can solve the same way. It's just that right now, there's a better solution. In the Zhou family WeChat group, my relatives were relentlessly trying to persuade me. Look, Qingqing, your father is messing around at the company. He's going to run it into the ground. We should offload the shares now while we still can. Split the proceeds. At least that way we can salvage some of the family's assets. Exactly. And with a bit more money, you could grease a few palms. Who knows? Maybe your dad could even get a couple of years knocked off his sentence. Just look at your father. He took a perfectly good Zhou family business and managed to run it into the ground. Exactly. If he had listened to us back then and cashed out at the peak, wouldn't every one of us Zhous be a multimillionaire by now? look at how far the stock has fallen, the shares in my hand are losing value by the second. They kept on berating my father relentlessly, while my mother was at home, weeping her heart out. Ching ching, look at this, the tea's gone cold before the guests have even left. These people are just taking advantage of us, a widow and her daughter. Because they think we're easy targets. Ching ching, you're all I have left. I patted my mother's hand. Don't worry, Mom, I'll get Dad out of this mess. As for these relatives, I'll handle them, you just relax. Really, how are you going to do that? I smiled. Just sit back and watch. Long before certain relatives got wind of the news and started frantically dumping Zhou Group's shares, I had already arranged for people to quietly buy them up from behind. This incident is the perfect opportunity to consolidate Zhou Group's equity. Afterwards, if those relatives dare to come knocking and cause a scene, they won't have a leg to stand on. I posted a message in the WeChat group. My parents and I have no intention of selling our shares. Do as you please. Oh, you're far too young and naive, girl. When the Zhou Group goes bankrupt, you won't be able to get rid of that hot potato if you tried. Exactly, it's still worth something now. What are you waiting for if not to sell? I sneered. This bunch of relatives was far more troublesome than the ones dumping their shares. They had their eyes set on my family's equity. The moment I sold my stake, they'd swoop in and take over Zhou Enterprises. I'm not that stupid, don't worry about me. My only focus right now is helping my father with his lawsuit. You're all free to do as you please. I knew these people wouldn't lift a finger without a guarantee. Good thing I had a backup plan ready for them. That very night, news broke that the entire finance department at Zhou Corp had resigned en masse, leaving the company completely rudderless. What does this tell you? This proves there are real problems with Zhou Corp's finances. Zhou Corp is likely to collapse within days. The news was released right at market close, and the entire market plummeted to the limit down in an instant. The relatives in the group chat, who were still hoping for a big payout, were horrified and immediately sold off all their shares. I orchestrated all of this myself. The entire finance department of Zhou Corp answers to me. Getting them to release a bit of false information was child's play. As I was quietly buying up those undervalued shares, my relatives in the group chat were busy mocking me. It's over. Zhou Corp is truly finished. The problems are this big, and they're not even holding on to the assets. There's definitely something fishy going on. Ching ching. And you call yourself a businesswoman, you don't care one bit about the Zhou family. Sigh, we really misjudged you. Good thing I sold my shares quickly, or I'd be stuck with them. Without a second glance, I left the group chat and, for good measure, blocked the lot of them on my mom's behalf too. From now on, those insufferable relatives of ours can forget about getting a single advantage from our family. 14. The Jiang residence. The true head of the Jiang family, old Mr. Jiang, has entered a state of semi-retirement. Nearly all company affairs, both major and minor, have been handed over to his children and grandchildren to manage. His days were spent peacefully at home, sipping tea and admiring the flowers, enjoying his retirement. Only occasionally did he need to weigh in on major decisions. Old Mr. Jiang was somewhat surprised to hear I had come to visit. The little miss from the Zhou family. What brings her to see me? Could she have taken a fancy to one of my grandsons? The butler looked somewhat embarrassed and reminded him in a low voice. A few days ago, Mr. Zhou was taken in by the authorities. Old Mr. Jiang's face lit up with understanding. So that's what this is about. Show her in, even though I was here to make trouble. I couldn't neglect the proper courtesies. Old Mr. Jiang, it's been 4 years. You're still as hale and hearty as ever. This is a small local specialty I brought back from Europe for you. I hope you'll accept it. Old Mr. Jiang had been a titan of industry his whole life. What kind of luxury hadn't he seen? But he still accepted it with a smile. I remember your name is Zhou Muqing, right? I nodded. That's right. You remembered correctly, sir. Old Mr. Jiang chuckled. The Zhou and Jiang families are close friends. If you'll forgive an old man's presumption, I'll call you A Qing. Is that all right? I just smiled, letting the remark pass without a direct reply. Mr. Jiang, you know exactly why I'm here today. Old Mr. Jiang feigned ignorance. Oh, I wasn't aware. Steward, did I have any prior appointment with Qing Qing today? The steward replied with utmost deference. No, sir, you did not. Old Mr. Jiang looked at me and said, you see. It seems we had no such arrangement. Looks like this old man's memory is still holding up. I gave a faint smile and placed the documents in my hand on the coffee table. Please take a look at these, sir. Then we can discuss how to proceed. Hearing this, the old gentleman's smile faded slightly. He took the documents and flipped through them casually at first, but then his brow furrowed. The further he read, the more his anger became impossible to conceal. Even old Mr. Jiang, who had wielded immense power in the capital for a lifetime, never imagined his grandson Jiang Chang would turn out to be such a reckless and witless fool. Anyone with half a brain can see that my future prospects are limitless. I could even lead the Zhou family to surpass many of the capital's old money dynasties in one fell swoop. With a little more time to cultivate political connections, the Zhou clan could stand firm for 100 years. Jiang Chang is willing to offend a future business titan like me, all because of a personal grudge, a grudge that's completely baseless. I might add, it's utterly tactless. Giving up a spot at Tsinghua or Peking University over some decorative vase was already the height of foolishness, and now, on top of that, this whole mess has left old Mr. Jiang utterly disheartened and disappointed. It seems he's still too hung up on that tenuous blood connection. Old Mr. Jiang's expression shifted for a long moment before he finally set down the documents in his hand. I understand the situation now. I took a sip of tea. Old Mr. Jiang, how do you think we should resolve this matter? He didn't hesitate for long. The Jiang family will take full responsibility for this mess we've created. I hope you won't hold a grudge against the Jiangs. Ching. The foolish actions of an ignorant junior shouldn't bring down the entire family. I smiled faintly. Of course. As long as my family remains safe and sound, the implication was clear. This matter would only be put to rest once old Mr. Jiang handled it to my satisfaction. Old Mr. Jiang was a shrewd man. He deftly changed the subject. Speaking of which, I heard your company went public on Nasdaq the other day, didn't it? I haven't had the chance to congratulate you yet. I shook my head. It's nothing compared to old Mr. Jiang's accomplishments, just a bit of dabbling. Really, old Mr. Jiang shook his head. In my opinion, none of the younger generation in the Jiang family can hold a candle to you. Ching. Are you seeing anyone? Have any of my descendants caught your eye? Is he angling for a marriage alliance? Compared to the Jiang conglomerate, the Zhou family is practically a speck on the map. Besides my own immediate family, the rest of the Zhou relatives are completely unreliable. If we were to form a marriage alliance with the Jiang family, our Zhou clan would be swallowed up in no time. I certainly wasn't going to take the bait on that one. I waved my hands repeatedly. No, thank you. I'm still young. I'm not considering such matters for the time being. Old Mr. Jiang looked somewhat disappointed, but still said with a smile, in that case, if there are any projects for cooperation in the future, you can always contact our Jiang family. We are willing to offer a 50% concession on our share as compensation for this matter. Thank you in advance, Mr. Jiang. I must go visit my father now, so I won't take up any more of your time. With that, I stood up and left without another word. Time was of the essence. Lingering here to exchange pleasantries with Mr. Jiang would only delay my father's release. Mr. Jiang works fast. My father was out by that very afternoon. Meanwhile, word spread that a mid-level official at the tax bureau had been taken down, handcuffed on the spot by the police. The Jiangcheng family was also hauled into the station, charged with bribery and malicious competition. 15. The news sent shockwaves through the entire capital. Jiangcheng, from the Jiang family, don't you remember? That's the kid who, 4 years ago, gave up his spots at Tsinghua and Peking University for so-called true love to go to Beijing Institute of Technology. He really is from the Jiang family. Then why are they targeting the Zhou family, and using such underhanded tactics? I heard that the young lady from the Zhou family and this lovesick fool from the Jiang family were childhood sweethearts. They were supposed to be a perfect match, but then that so-called true love came between them, and that's why it didn't work out. Wait, you've lost me. So why is the Jiang family trying to get back at the Zhou family? Didn't Jiangcheng dump that Zhou girl? Exactly, that's the weird part. The story goes that Jiangcheng got dumped by his so-called true love. Now he's got no degree, no power, and no love life. In a fit of bitter rage, he's blaming the whole mess on that poor Zhou girl. What the hell? What kind of logic is that? I feel so bad for the Zhou girl, getting saddled with a narcissistic creep like that. But I think I get where he's coming from. Jiangcheng probably believes that if that girl had just held on a little longer back then, everything might be completely different today. A top-tier graduate. A brilliant young talent with a promising future. And have you all seen what that Zhou family girl has accomplished? If Jiangcheng were still with her now, he'd have a stake in that massive business empire. Are you talking about Douyin and Kuaishou? You mean the Zhou family's daughter created those? Exactly, those are the apps. Their market value must be in the hundreds of billions now, right? Wow, that girl's really got it going on. So, not being with Jiang Chang actually saved her. Right, if she'd been with a self-absorbed, love-obsessed guy like Jiang Chang, who knows how much he would have dragged her down. It's much better for her to shine on her own now. The nerve of the Jiang family, they're in the wrong, but they're blaming others. Does the whole world revolve around them or something? Exactly, makes you wonder what kind of upbringing they had in that household. Just as the online discussion was reaching a fever pitch, the Jiang family headquarters, with old Mr. Jiang himself at the helm, issued a formal statement. He outright declared that the Jiang family was severing all ties with Jiang Chang's branch of the family. From now on, Jiang Chang's lineage would not be entitled to a single cent of the Jiang family fortune. Furthermore, any mess they create is entirely their own responsibility and has nothing to do with the Jiang family. Now that's what I call decisive. Anyone who sees this has to give him credit. Old Mr. Jiang sure knows how to get things done. If I'd had even half his nerve back in the day, my family would be set for life by now. Typical of old Mr. Jiang. I heard he's the one who even turned in the Jiang Chang family. Really? Now that's what you call putting justice before family. If I had a grandson like that, I'd send him away too. It's all about chasing profit, nothing more. Outside, public opinion was divided. While I was at home with my parents, my father said with deep emotion, "When trouble really hits, you realize none of the relatives are any help at all." My mother complained, "Forget about helping. The moment we got into trouble, they sold all their shares, and they even had their eyes on the stocks we hold. Are they even human?" My father said with a hint of guilt, "It's all right, let them sell those shares if they want. We still hold some equity and have a voice on the board. What matters is that everyone is safe. We can always work to regain what was lost in time." My mother wiped her tears and said, "Yes, as long as you two are safe, that's all that matters. After living my whole life, I can't let our family fall apart at the very end, can I?" As the two of them were talking sweetly in an embrace, I cleared my throat. "Dad, Mom, have you forgotten about me? What did you do?" I blinked a couple of times. I bought back all the shares they sold off, and even scooped up some others that were being dumped, so by my count, our family now holds over 60% of the equity. Hearing this, both of their eyes went wide. How did you get that much money?" "You see, the company behind my two software products has gone public, so my net worth has skyrocketed on paper. But this so-called wealth is still just paper money for now. I can't actually cash it out. Even though the Zhou family's stock price plummeted before, acquiring that much equity would still require several billion." I chuckled and said, "Mom, Dad, did I forget to mention, I have nearly 100 million followers on Douyin." "So what?" Clearly, these two had no idea what having 100 million followers really meant. I grinned. "Let me put it this way, for a single live stream, my starting fee is 50 million. How much?" They were practically leaping out of their chairs. I repeated, "A single 6-hour livestream, starting at 50 million RMB. Silence, a profound, speechless silence. It hung in the air between the three of us. After a long pause, my mom murmured, "Good heavens, is Douyin live streaming really that lucrative?" 16, absolutely. It's all about the traffic. That's the golden rule. Why else do you think so many people are scrambling to download Douyin? It's to monetize that audience. That's one of the platform's main revenue streams. Everything from live streaming tips and interactions to product sales and ad monetization, anything tied to traffic can be turned into cash, and with the traffic from Douyin, launching other apps and directing users becomes a breeze. I can get into everything: food, clothing, housing, transportation. I'll make sure the Zhou name is known across China and the whole world. I excitedly laid out Douyin's business blueprint. My parents listened, utterly dumbfounded. After a long silence, my father finally let out a sigh. "Ah, Qingqing has grown up. She's not that little girl who could only rely on her dad anymore. She has her own mind now." My mother chided him gently. "Our daughter is becoming capable. Aren't you happy about that?" As I watched the scene before me, a profound sense of peace washed over me. I'd been reborn. Successfully ditched that good-for-nothing lunatic, and saved my entire family's lives and fortune. It was as if I had completed some monumental task, and I slipped into a state of utter, carefree relaxation. I took a deep breath and wiped the tears from the corners of my eyes. "Mom, Dad, you're safe. I'm so relieved." "Oh, you silly child, what are you talking about? This is all thanks to you. You're the great hero of our Zhou family." Then, The verdict for Jiang Chang's family was announced. Jiang Chang, as the mastermind, was sentenced to 8 years in prison. His parents, as accomplices, were sentenced to 5 and 4 years in prison, respectively. The tax official who accepted bribes to carry out illegal operations was not only stripped of his rank but also sentenced to 8 years in prison. Wan Nannan, who drove Jiang Chang down a path of extremism, also met a ruinous end. After leaving Jiang Chang, she went on to pursue several wealthy heirs. But Wan Nannan had already made a notorious name for herself in the capital. Who would want anything to do with her? Having grown accustomed to her former life of luxury, Wan Nannan naturally couldn't endure the hardship of having no income. She kept selling off the luxury items Jiang Chang had bought for her, just to scrape by, but robbing Peter to pay Paul can only work for so long. Once she had sold off all her valuables and could no longer service her debts, she was captured and trafficked to Myanmar. As for what became of her after that, I have no idea. My ventures, Douyin and Kaifan Lu, have grown from strength to strength, expanding their reach further than ever. They have become industry leaders, not just in China, but across the globe. Never content to rest on my laurels, I have continually explored new frontiers and other sectors. In my spare time, I have also dedicated significant effort to supporting charitable causes and investing in new energy and cutting-edge technologies. Together with fellow Chinese entrepreneurs, we have made outstanding contributions to the nation's development. Everyone says that Mr. Zhou raised a remarkable daughter, who led the Zhou family to its pinnacle. Riding that momentum, she even purged the Zhou family of its parasites, making my father the true decision-maker of the Zhou enterprise. With my wealth and influence, I naturally became the most sought-after marriage prospect for every eligible bachelor among Beijing's elite families. But having learned my lesson from a past life, I've long understood that it's better to shine on my own than to play a supporting role in someone else's story. I have my own career to focus on. Why should I be bothered with other people's family affairs? So, I simply went abroad, selected excellent genetic material, and gave birth to a pair of mixed-race twin babies. I then invested a tremendous amount of energy and money into them, making it abundantly clear I was grooming them as my successors. Seeing my resolute stance, even to the point of producing heirs, the other prominent families backed off. Naturally, my parents respected my opinion. After all, based on past events, my choices had proven far better than theirs. By the time Jiang Chang and his family were released from prison, I had already become someone far beyond their reach. I heard that the moment Jiang Chang got out of prison, he saw news about me. On the TV in the store was me, having just received the Youth Award, delivering my acceptance speech. With my impeccable style, radiant confidence, and utterly transcendent presence, I am completely out of Jiang Chang's league. The childhood friend he once looked down on is now living a life infinitely better than his. And what about him, cast out by the Jiang family, estranged from his own parents, and left with nowhere to turn, penniless and living on the streets? He was gaunt and haggard, just like a vagrant. Who could possibly tell now that he was once the golden boy of the Jiang family? Jiang Chang had lost his mind. He told anyone who would listen that the brightest rising star in the capital now, the young CEO Zhou, used to be his devoted follower, swearing she'd marry no one but him. And now, I've turned my back on him. I've abandoned my childhood sweetheart, but with his deranged expression and tattered clothes, no one could possibly connect him to the dazzling person I am today. So naturally, no one believed a word of his nonsense. As for me, in this life, I've lived smoothly, happily, and in good health. Nothing beats the joy of being beautifully independent. Story 2. My brother has hated me for 7 years. The last time, I quarreled with him and left angrily on a rainy night. Accidentally fell into the river and suffered memory loss. In the hospital, he was relieved and casually pointed to a terminally ill patient, saying, "That's your real brother. Make sure you recognize this clearly, and don't bother me again." The pale-faced man approached and gently patted my head. "Let's go then. Big brother will take you home." Later, to save my terminally ill big brother, I braved snow-blocked roads to fetch a renowned doctor and stayed up countless nights with him. Even at the cost of half my life, my elder brother stopped me in the freezing snow, his voice trembling with panic. "Have you really forgotten me?" The doctor declared my memory was disordered when I first woke up in the hospital bed. Falling from a great height into the river caused a cerebral concussion, and I was unconscious for over half a month. Half a month ago, I had a huge argument with my elder brother Gu Nanzhao. As I slammed the door to leave, I shouted angrily, I'd rather die than let you collect my corpse. Gunanjao's face was contorted with rage as he sneered behind me. Then I hope you get what you wish for. And now, half a month later, I'm still alive, opening my eyes. The early winter sunlight streamed through the hospital room window. After a long moment of dazed vision, I finally began to hear. Outside the hospital room, the doctor was speaking to Gunanjao. 1. Head trauma. Prolonged unconsciousness, memory loss or confusion are both possible. Not only might I forget my loved ones, I might not even remember myself. I struggled out of bed, wanting to go out and explain that my memory wasn't failing. I hate being hospitalized. I don't want to be trapped in the hospital because of this diagnosis. As I approached the door, I heard Gunanjao's cold, deep voice. His tone seemed to carry something else, perhaps even something akin to delight. This could be considered a good thing. As if to confirm the doctor's words, he added. She woke up groggily once last night, looked at me and asked who I was. I vaguely recalled the scene of briefly waking up last night. Gunanjao was right, but at that time, I only asked him that because I was disoriented and couldn't clearly see faces in my blurred vision. The hand gripping the doorknob froze momentarily. The doctor spoke reassuringly. There's no need to rush. We can only confirm after your sister wakes up. Even if there are memory issues, we can still, then. It was Gunanjao who interrupted the doctor's words. Forgetting is good, no need to help her recover. I even detected a trace of unconcealed delight in his tone. Is that how it is? Hoping I'd forget about him. All these years, after Mom and Dad passed away, I've argued with him countless times, but in this world, he's the only family I have left. I've thought about death as an easy way out. Now that I've survived a brush with death, I hope to talk with him again. Open the door. I met a momentarily startled gaze outside the door, which quickly turned cold, because I'd been unconscious for too long. When I spoke, my voice was somewhat hoarse. Brother, actually Gunanjao quickly furrowed his brows, looking at me in disbelief. Soon, it seemed as if he was deceiving himself. He concluded that I must have lost my memory and was randomly calling him brother. There were many patients coming and going in the corridor. He seemed eager to shake me off, even reaching out to randomly point at a passing patient without looking, saying, "That's your brother." For a moment, I thought I had misheard. Stunned, I looked at him and asked, "What?" In Gunanjao's eyes, there was a fleeting hesitation and struggle. We've been siblings for over 20 years. No matter how much he hates or resents me, I still can't believe he would push me toward a complete stranger while I'm still recovering from my injuries. I think it's really time for us to have a proper talk. I was about to speak. No longer wanting to sulk, he suddenly spoke again, cutting me off. I said, "That's your real brother. Get it straight, don't call people randomly, and don't bother me again." This time, he seemed to have made up his mind. When signaling to the man who had stopped again, there was no hesitation left in his expression. The doctor, seemingly afraid to speak out of turn, had already left. The corridor was bustling with people, and various gazes were directed at me. It seems I truly am the fool who lost his mind after falling into the water, unable to even recognize my own elder brother. The man identified as my brother leaned against the wall, standing at the other end of the corridor. His figure was tall and slender, with striking features, yet unable to conceal the excessive pallor in his complexion. Any normal person would feel anger upon hearing such absurd accusations. But he just calmly looked at Gunanjao through the passing crowd, then turned his gaze to me. It seemed like he was waiting for us to continue speaking. Gunanjao spoke coldly again. "I'm just an ordinary friend of your brother, here to visit you out of courtesy. Go find him yourself. Whether he acknowledges you as his sister or not is between you two." As he finished speaking, he turned and walked toward the end of the corridor, leaving without hesitation. My hand hanging by my side trembled uncontrollably. Even though I kept telling myself that his hatred for me was nothing new, it was just losing a brother who despised me. After all, we had never gotten along properly all these years, yet the rims of my eyes still uncontrollably reddened. Bewilderment, humiliation, resentment, and fury, emotions tangled together. In the end, I couldn't utter another word. Watching Gunanjao leave, my vision blurred momentarily as I hastily reached out to steady myself against the doorframe. A buzzing sound filled my ears, leaving me dazed for quite some time. The man who had been silently watching suddenly reacted. He released his hand from the wall and walked toward me. For a moment, I even thought he was coming to accuse us of staging the accident. Gunanjao left, so he could only scold me. Instinctively, I wanted to take a step back. But perhaps it was due to being unconscious for too long, coupled with sudden emotional turmoil, My body felt weak, and I couldn't lift my foot. Then, I realized belatedly, a hand landed on my head. I felt as if he had hit me, but the touch was so light, it seemed he had merely patted my head. It took me a while before I finally heard his voice, weary yet gentle. "Let's go then, I'll take you home, little brother." How many years had it been since Gunanjao last called himself my elder brother? Too long, I can't even remember anymore. I looked up blankly. I'd been quarreling with him for years, for so many years, ever since my parents passed away. I think I might have truly gone mad. I looked at this unfamiliar man whom I had never seen before. I nodded again and said, "All right." I followed a stranger back to an unfamiliar home. The interior was so clean and desolate that it even felt somewhat eerie. Everywhere was spotless, devoid of any living presence. Like the man's excessively pale and lifeless face, many years ago, I might have been afraid, too, but now, life and death no longer matter to me. There is nothing left for me to fear. I look around, then I glance at the coffee table, where several small white medicine bottles are placed. Those bottles are very familiar to me. They contain the same medicine I used to hoard. It's a pity doctors are always so cautious. No matter what excuses I make, like insomnia or stress, they're never willing to give me a couple extra pills. I've been saving for nearly half a year, and only managed to accumulate a little over 10 tablets. I stare at those medicine bottles. Somewhat amusingly, I actually felt an instinctive envy. That amount would be enough to die. Beside the medicine bottle lay a photograph, somewhat peculiar, roughly 12 inches in size, in black and white. The man in the photo looks at the camera, calm and expressionless. The photo was so conspicuous that I couldn't help but take another look. I glanced sideways at the man standing beside me, whose expression was almost identical to the one in the photo. Even after being seen with such a thing, the man's expression remained unchanged. He calmly walked over to the coffee table and casually put the medicine bottle and photo into the drawer, then said gently, "Sit down, I'll go cook for you." Oh, he really seemed to believe it. That there was something wrong with my brain, making me forget my own brother. I regained some of my rationality. Deceiving someone who already wants to die carries a certain guilt in one's conscience. I want to explain before leaving. Recalling that photo, those pills, suddenly, I became curious about what misfortunes he had experienced that would make him, like me, want to end his life, and how did he manage to buy those drugs? As if possessed, I sat down. The man went into the kitchen, saying he would cook, but there was no movement for a long time. Feeling puzzled, I got up and walked to the kitchen door. I saw him open the refrigerator door, staring blankly inside. The huge refrigerator was as empty as the house, not even a single ingredient, not even a bottle of water. Clearly, no fire had been lit in this kitchen for a long time. There wasn't even a pot on the gas stove. Only an earthen jar remained, likely used for brewing medicine or similar purposes. It took him a long while to finally snap out of his daze. "Avert your gaze from the refrigerator and look at me again." The man spoke with a hint of guilt. "Sorry, I forgot to buy groceries. I'll go out for a bit." Over these years, I've often looked at my reflection in the mirror, feeling like I'm clearly still alive, yet also like a soul that's lost its breath and floated up into midair. And now, I suddenly realized, there was actually someone in this world who resembled a corpse more than I did. He walked past me and continued outside. I couldn't even hear his footsteps or sense the slightest trace of his breath. It suddenly occurred to me that perhaps this complete stranger would never come back, just like that night when I quarreled with Gunanjao and then fell into the river. Both Gunanjao and the doctor believed it was because the rain was too heavy that night, and the bridge was too slippery. I accidentally fell in. But I know deep down, it's not. The man walked to the entranceway. About to step out, I looked at his back and suddenly said, "I like eating fish." The figure at the entrance froze abruptly. He halted his steps and turned around, still looking at me calmly and lifelessly. "What?" I met his gaze and repeated. I said, "I want to eat fish, brother. Could you cook fish for dinner tonight?" The front door was left open. The early winter evening was windy, and a cold breeze rushed in through the door. The hem of his coat fluttered, and his already messy bangs became even more disheveled, making his face appear even more deathly pale. The man's palm hanging at his side seemed to tremble slightly. After a long pause, he responded, I watched him leave, then the door closed. "In that case, he'll probably come back, right?" Thinking about it, I found it truly ridiculous. I'm someone who's about to go seek death myself, yet here I am, seemingly still concerned about the life or death of a stranger. I sat back on the sofa, and as soon as I closed my eyes, those images flooded back. My parents, who should have been safe and sound, were buried beneath the rubble, yet I was rescued, surviving to this day by stepping over my parents' 2 lives. The scene shifted to Gu Nanjiao's eyes filled with resentment, the sound of gnashing teeth. Gu Nanjiao, you're the one who deserves to die. It's only right that you're dead, Gu Nanjiao. After all these years, have you truly lived with a clear conscience? I have no peace in my heart, so all these years, I've never had a single night of truly peaceful sleep, trapped in a nightmare. It took me a long while to struggle awake. Opening my eyes, I looked toward the closed drawer beneath the coffee table. As if my hand had a will of its own, it reached over, silently opened the drawer again, and took out those medicine bottles. I've never stolen anything in my life, so when I reached out, even my palm quickly became damp, but I had carefully checked the dosage of this medication. I'll use half and leave the other half for him. As for the remainder, if he truly wishes to end his life, it should suffice. My consciousness was somewhat scattered as I tried to comfort myself while trembling hands opened a medicine bottle. The phone left on the coffee table suddenly rang. The abrupt sound almost exploded in the deathly silent living room. It nearly made me drop the medicine bottle in my hand. I felt extremely guilty. In a fluster, I dropped the medicine bottle and reached for the phone. Only after answering did I suddenly realize this wasn't my phone. The man had left his phone at home when he went out. The call connected. An infuriated voice immediately came through. I'm telling you, Pei Yin. You can't keep a single cent of that 700 million from me, not a chance. Even if I didn't raise you, I still fathered you. That cheap sister of yours died for you. As the father, inheriting my terminally ill son's property is only right and proper. Want to donate it all. Keep dreaming. I didn't mean to pry into others' private affairs, but their emotional outburst was simply too intense, their words too rapid. By the time I came to my senses and hastily hung up the phone, I had already heard quite a bit. A slip of paper had fallen onto the carpet. It seemed to have been pulled out from the drawer when I hurriedly took out the medicine bottle earlier. It was a diagnosis slip for end-stage heart failure, with the patient's name field reading Pei Yin. The name sounded vaguely familiar, identical to the one angrily mentioned during the phone call earlier. It took me a moment to recall. I'd recently seen it trending online. 3. The founder and CEO of Yenqing Technology abruptly announced plans to sell the company at the peak of its success. A hasty sale at this juncture would undoubtedly be disadvantageous. In the news, when the media swarms in, the man was like that too, lifeless and expressionless, only a brief response, a bit tired, want to rest. So, it was him after all. It turned out he intended to end his life because of a terminal illness. How unpredictable life can be. Healthy people want to die, while those with thriving careers are struck by terminal illnesses. I carefully picked up the document, along with the medicine bottle. It was placed back in the drawer. Stealing medicine from a terminally ill patient to take. I'm afraid even if I get my wish and go to hell, the king of hell would spit in disgust. The sky darkened as rain began to fall outside the window. Raindrops pelted against the floor-to-ceiling windows as the downpour intensified, until the last glimmer of daylight faded. There was still no movement at the entrance. Could he really have died out there, after an internal struggle? He finally got up and stepped out the door. The car is still parked in the front yard. He left on foot. Without his phone, he couldn't hail a taxi, at least not before leaving the villa area. Perhaps he didn't go too far. I took an umbrella and went out. Leaving the villa area, I hailed a taxi again and asked the driver to take me to the nearest mall. Actually, I thought perhaps he hadn't returned so late because he went out to buy fish, but I still wanted to look for him. The weather was cold, and there were fewer people in the mall than usual. I searched floor by floor, but didn't see any trace of that person. Just as I was thinking about trying another mall to continue my search, behind me, a cold and angry voice suddenly rang out. Who told you to follow me here? It was Gu Nanjiao's voice. I turned around. There stood Gu Nanjiao with a cold expression, glaring at me disapprovingly from not far away. Beside him was Linanin, the daughter of a CEO with whom he recently collaborated on a major project. While negotiating a business deal, he somehow ended up gaining a sworn little sister. The other company's CEO kept praising him as warm-hearted and kind, but only I knew he was never that type of person. He just didn't like me, his own younger sister. My heart felt like it was soaked in water, aching with a sour swelling. It took me many years to adjust, about the brother who used to always accompany and indulge me, complying with my every whim. Later, he came to despise me utterly, hurling harsh words my way, yet in the end, I still could never truly get used to it or remain unaffected. I remained silent for a long while before barely suppressing that discomfort in my heart, clutching the umbrella tightly in my hand. I tried my best to remain calm as I looked at him and said, I wasn't following you, I came here to find someone. Gu Nanzhao's eyes burned with even greater fury. A place you'd never come before. If not following me, who else could you possibly be looking for? As soon as he finished speaking, behind him, I saw that familiar figure. To be honest, I still couldn't quite recall the face of that man named Pei Yan, but it would be hard to find another person whose face could be so pale and lifeless. He stood there, at a distance neither too far nor too close. He didn't come any closer, still looking at me calmly. It seemed he quite liked it this way. Watching me from a little further away, Gu Nanzhao, receiving no response from me for a while, frowned and said, I'm talking to you, stop following me secretly, I'm not your brother, understand. Pei Yan was holding a plastic bag in his hand. The transparent bag revealed the processed fish inside. After being out for over 3 hours, he actually went to buy fish, for no reason. I suddenly remembered many years ago. Late at night, I pestered Gu Nanzhao, saying I wanted to eat the handmade osmanthus cakes from that shop in the east of the city. He scolded me with a stern face, saying kids who eat sweets at night will get cavities. Besides, it's late at night, and the pastry shop has long been closed. In the middle of the night, he returned covered in the chill of the night, sneaking into my bedroom quietly, hiding it from mom and dad. The osmanthus cake tucked in his embrace was still warm. He sternly admonished me, saying, this is the last time. But later, there would still be countless last times. I pulled back my thoughts and looked at the fish again. Suddenly, I let out a soft chuckle. Gu Nanzhao looked at me as if he'd seen a ghost. Following my gaze to look behind him, his expression instantly turned shocked and furious. Why is this man still here? I finally withdrew my gaze and gave him an answer. I wasn't following you. I came to find my brother. Gu Nanzhao's gaze remained fixed on Pei Yan, his expression seemingly guarded. His tone carried reproach, yet his response was directed at me. I told you, I'm not your brother, stop calling me that. I walked past him and stopped in front of Pei Yan. The man who left the house neatly dressed now appeared normal at first glance, yet his shoes were visibly wet, with mud stains on his black trousers. That night when I fell into the river and was rescued by passers-by, I was covered in similar mud. Perhaps Pei Yan had been to the riverside, but in the end, he still came back. He came to the mall and bought the fish he promised me. I reached out and took the bag from his hand. Looking back at him, she said, let's go home, brother. A sudden tremor passed through Pei Yan's calm yet shadowed eyes. Before he could respond, Gu Nanzhao had already charged forward in uncontrollable rage. What did you call him, Gu Nanzhao? Have you lost your mind? I looked at him with a puzzled expression and said, this is my brother. What else should I call him? Didn't you already know? Gu Nanzhao's face turned ashen, momentarily speechless, unable to utter a word for quite some time. As I walked away arm in arm with Pei Yan, he finally caught up and stopped me in furious anger. You haven't come home all afternoon, Gu Nanzhao. You're not really going home with this man, are you? You dare run off with a stranger? Have you lost your mind? My throat felt tight, and for a moment I couldn't speak. He was so agitated, as if the one who fantasized about me losing my memory in the afternoon and couldn't wait to cut ties with me wasn't him. Gu Nanzhao saw that I wasn't speaking and began to lose control of his emotions. He reached out and grabbed Pei Yan by the collar. This is kidnapping. I can call the police right now. Pei Yan still didn't move. He calmly met Gu Nanzhao's gaze and, after a moment, only replied, she's an adult. Gu Nanzhao grew even more furious, his palm tightening. I was terrified that Pei Yan would be pushed down by him. The man's face was deathly pale, as if even a gust of wind could make him collapse the next moment. I angrily shoved Gu Nanzhao. Let go. More and more people were looking over curiously. Gu Nanzhao had always been a respectable man. After a long stalemate, he finally released his grip with resentment. He stared at Pei Yan and let out a cold laugh. She said you're her brother. Fine, even if I just ask once. Do you even know her name, Gu Nanzhao? I immediately responded. Gu Nanzhao was nearly hopping mad. I was asking him, who told you to answer? Gu Nanzhao, just keep pretending. You know perfectly well he doesn't even know your name, I said calmly. You should get your head examined. Pei Yan and I left. Behind us came Gu Nanzhao's angry, mocking laugh. Did you think pretending to lose your memory could really erase the fact that you killed our parents, letting you go on living selfishly without a care? I instinctively quickened my pace. Later, I didn't dare listen to another word behind me. When hurrying out of the mall, it was almost like fleeing in panic. I reached the roadside and took a taxi home with Pei Yan. Oh, that's not my home, that's Pei Yan's place. Sitting in the back seat of a car. My mind was filled with words I've heard countless times over the years. Gunanqiao, that's the fact that you caused our parents' death. Gunanqiao, why are you still alive? Gunanqiao, it's you who deserves to die. A tissue was silently handed to me from beside. Only then did I realize I had shed tears. I took the tissue and, through blurred vision, turned to look at the person beside me. I said, I regret it too. After a long pause, he responded softly, I wanted to laugh, but didn't. He doesn't even understand. Why is he saying He is merely a stranger who has never met me before, yet tears refused to obey. Hearing that it felt as if Gunanqiao was truly responding to me. After 7 years, he was finally willing to properly listen to a single word I said. I wiped my eyes haphazardly, tears soaking through the thin tissue. The person beside me stayed silent. Handing over another one, he didn't ask why I was crying, didn't ask if I'd remembered something. Didn't ask whether I truly remembered or not. He didn't ask anything, just remained silent, until I cried myself to exhaustion, leaned back against the seat, and fell into a deep sleep. In the dream, Mom gently touched my head and said, Xiao Qiao, don't cry, Mom will help you beat up your brother. Okay, I was a premature baby, weighing less than 2 kilograms at birth, before I was even a month old. I nearly died in the incubator. My parents were heartbroken for me, from the moment I was born. They poured almost all their love and care into me alone. They would start preparing the celebration nearly half a month in advance before each of my birthdays. No matter how busy with work or how far away abroad, they never missed a single parent-teacher meeting, Children's Day, or anniversary of mine. They hired professional nannies to take me to and from school and take care of my daily meals, would indulge me in taking leave to go to the amusement park. Then hire the gentlest tutor to help me catch up on missed lessons. For many years of my childhood, I took pride in this, until the year I turned 7, when I bought a gift after school for my brother Gunanqiao's birthday and came home, only to find Gunanqiao alone in his bedroom, eating a palm-sized cake. My parents went on a business trip out of town, and the nanny prepared dinner before leaving. I suddenly realized that for many years, I seemed to be the only one in this household who consistently remembered Gunanqiao's birthday. Apart from himself, it appears it was only me. That night, I felt indignant on Gunanqiao's behalf and wiped away angry tears. He frantically dropped the cake and hugged me, coaxing me by saying, It's okay, big brother. Just like Mom and Dad, big brother only cares that little sister is healthy, that's all that matters. He didn't just say it, he meant it, ever since I can remember. My elders have often joked with me about it. When I was born and put in an incubator, nearly dying, Gunanqiao cried harder than anyone. That's why my parents treasure me most, their miracle survivor. Gunanqiao feels the same way, yet he was also a child, with a birthday of his own. He wasn't born to be overlooked, born to always prioritize his younger sister. His parents still forgot his birthday countless times, even on Gunanqiao's 18th birthday. They remained indifferent as if nothing was amiss. After driving Gunanqiao off to cram school early in the morning, I had to rush off for a business trip out of town. Coincidentally, I was on vacation at home. Mom didn't trust me alone, so she packed my luggage and insisted I come along. Furious, I shouted angrily, I won't go, I hate you all, and I never want to go anywhere with you again. Mom's eyes turned red with sorrow. Dad had no choice but to ask the nanny to take good care of me before leaving with Mom. I stayed alone in the bedroom, preparing for Gunanqiao's coming-of-age ceremony. Using my New Year's money, I booked the banquet venue in advance. He created a group chat again, inviting me along with his friends and classmates. I think parents and elders don't care about my brother, but I do. In the evening, I sent a message in the group chat, just as I was about to call Gunanqiao to ask him to go to the hotel for a surprise. Inside the house, a faint tremor suddenly began, then the chandelier on the ceiling abruptly fell, striking my head. My vision blurred into a hazy crimson, and I can scarcely recall what happened next. I collapsed to the ground, panicked and desperate to escape, yet too weak to rise. Then came my parents as if descending from the heavens. They might have entered through the bedroom door, or perhaps the window. Beneath the collapsing roof, they held me tight. The nanny fled alone in the critical moment. My brother, in the same cram school that also experienced the earthquake, was trapped under the rubble. In the endless darkness around me, amidst the growing drowsiness, listening to my parents' anxious, exhausted, and persistent voices, be good, Xiao Qiao, don't fall asleep. That year, on your brother's 3rd birthday, He pestered our parents to go out and play, Mom accidentally took a fall, and after a week of bed rest to prevent miscarriage, you were still born prematurely. All these years, it's not that Mom and Dad forgot your brother's birthday, it's his guilt. He feels that celebrating his birthday is even more painful than not celebrating it at all. Be good, Xiao Qiao. Don't fall asleep, don't fall asleep. I don't remember what time I was rescued, my parents' voices still echoed in my ears. But only their bodies were recovered. I couldn't believe it and asked the rescuers, but I just heard their voices. The rescuers told me, it was a recording. 5, liar, they left first, recorded the sound with a phone, telling me not to sleep, because I said I hated them. They were so heartbroken they didn't eat or drink all day, said they'd go out of town, but never did, come back to save me when the earthquake strikes again, hungry, thirsty, and exhausted, they didn't survive the night. My life suddenly became a complete mess. No one ever mentioned that 18th birthday surprise I prepared for Gu Nanzhao again. Gu Nanzhao was rescued from the ruins of the cram school. My always gentlest brother confronted me with grief and anger for the first time. Weren't Mom and Dad taking you on a business trip? Why did you stay home? Why are you always so disobedient? Is it because you're throwing a tantrum to go to the amusement park again? I stared at his ferocious, nearly torn apart face. Suddenly I felt some truths didn't need to be spoken anymore. When it comes to my parents' death, my suffering and guilt alone are enough. Gu Nanzhao doesn't need to know it's related to him. In the end, his eyes turned bloodshot with rage. For the first time, he cursed at me. Gu Nanzhao, you're utterly despicable. Even later, when a mutual friend, despite my protests, revealed that I had been preparing a birthday celebration for him that day, but Gu Nanzhao didn't believe it. He sneered mockingly at me. Gu Nanzhao, is the truth that your willfulness caused your parents' death really so hard for you to admit? After that, he never again spoke a single kind word to me. Once again, I was trapped in a nightmare, shivering all over, yet drenched in cold sweat, until someone beside me called softly, wake up, wake up. The person gently nudged my arm. The gentle voice sounded just like my parents coaxing in the dream. Don't fall asleep. I jolted awake from the dream, gasping heavily with huffing breaths. It took a while for my vision to clear. The taxi had already stopped outside the villa area. Pei Yan turned his head, looking at me with some concern. He grabbed a tissue. After a moment's hesitation, he wiped the sweat from my forehead, then asked me, you look pale, are you carsick? I tilted my head to look at him, remaining silent for a while, perhaps because I'd just woken up. His face appeared alternately clear and blurry to me, vaguely. It seemed as if Gu Nanzhao came into view again. Pei Yan let out a soft sigh, then took out the wallet to pay the fare, pushed open the car door, and helped me out. It's not far now, let's walk back. Okay. I still remained silent and followed him out of the car. The night grew deeper, and a heavy rain had already ceased. Standing by the unfamiliar roadside, I shrank my neck as the wind blew against my face. Suddenly, there was a moment of daze, unsure of what year or month it was now. I don't know why I came here. Pei Yan also seemed at a loss for words. He stood with me for a while, then looked at the 2 umbrellas still in my hands before asking, did you go out of your way to bring me an umbrella? I stared at him for a long time. After a long while, I finally nodded. Right, you didn't drive, and you didn't bring your phone either. I couldn't tell if it was the street light playing tricks or my blurred vision creating an illusion. I sighed. I noticed Pei Yan's expression falter slightly, and for a fleeting moment, his eyes seemed to redden. Actually, I wasn't just going to bring him an umbrella. I thought he might have died out there, but saying such things out loud doesn't sound good after all. I followed Pei Yan as we walked into the villa area. I hadn't gone far before feeling too exhausted to continue. That familiar palpitation, mixed with a headache, wave after wave came crashing over me. My therapist told me it's completely normal for depression patients to experience such situations. When you suddenly feel uncomfortable, find a comfortable place to rest for a while, find 1 or 2 close friends or relatives to accompany you and listen to your thoughts. But I lost the friends or relatives who were willing to listen to me long ago. My brother Gu Nanzhao hates me. He took over the family business 7 years ago. And all my former friends and relatives have more or less relied on his help, so gradually, like Gu Nanzhao, they all stopped treating me well. I lost the desire to confide in others a long time ago. Enduring the headache, I stopped walking and stood still. Pei Yan walked a short distance ahead, probably noticing I hadn't followed. He turned back to look at me in the night, again like that, watching me silently from a distance. Suddenly I understood why he always liked doing this. Perhaps from further away, it's easier to mistake someone for another person from your memories, like now, as I look at him in the dim light, it's as if I'm seeing Gunanjiao, and as he looks at me, he's probably imagining what the man on the phone described, his deceased sister, Pei Yan. A car drives out from the villa area, the somewhat glaring headlights sweep across my face and then pass by. It was clearly my eyes that were stung, yet Pei Yan squinted his, in the depths of the night. His complexion seemed to grow even paler. 6. He remained standing there, not coming any closer, his voice lifted slightly as he asked, "Can't you walk anymore? Do you need me to carry you?" The streetlight was fragmented by tree shadows as I watched him in the interplay of light and shade, nodding. "All right." Pei Yan walked towards me and took off his overcoat. Gazing at the top of my head, he draped the coat over my shoulders, he took the things from my hands, turned his back, and crouched down in front of me. The moment I agreed, I already felt a twinge of regret. Seeing him like this, I worried whether he could still carry me on his back, so when I leaned onto his back, I was extra cautious, terrified he might collapse. The man seemed to be in a slightly better mood for once, always appearing sickly and lethargic. He now let out a soft chuckle. "It's not that serious." He carried me on his back as he stood up, then said gently, "Let's go home." My eyes suddenly burned with unshed tears. Tears fell abruptly, landing on his shoulder. His steps seemed to hesitate slightly, as if he might have noticed. I bit my lip hard, making no sound. I just couldn't stop thinking about it. For many years in the past, countless times, Gunanjiao would also wait for me in the night. From afar, he would stand there calling anxiously, "Little sister, over here." As if afraid I wouldn't notice him and might run off and get lost. When I acted spoiled and stubborn, saying I couldn't walk anymore, he would also carry me on his back like this and say, "Let's go home." "He doesn't want me anymore," he said. "I'm not your brother," he said. "Make sure you understand this clearly, and don't bother me again." I lost my parents overnight, and the love of my elder brother, and because of that night, I was diagnosed with post-traumatic stress disorder. In my memories and dreams, that night's events repeat endlessly, the exact same scenario, with intensely real sensations, the shaking floor, the crashing chandelier, my parents holding me tight, repeating those words over and over, "Xiao Qiao, don't fall asleep, don't sleep, don't sleep, that's a recording, Miss Gu, that's a recording." Gunanjiao furiously accused and questioned, then severe depression, the psychologist told me, "Let's talk to your brother." But at that time, our family suddenly encountered a major change. Just after reaching adulthood, Gunanjiao had to join the company, and his personality drastically changed due to immense pressure. He shouldn't have to endure greater sorrow and suffering because of my mental illness. I started thinking about those things again, painfully, uncontrollably. My body seemed to tremble, and I heard faint sobs. It might have been the wind, or perhaps it was me crying. Pei Yan's voice sounded by my ear, "Stars." I tilted my head and looked at the sky, seeing only the pitch-black darkness of night. I replied with a trembling voice, "There are no stars." Pei Yan fell silent, until they finally reached outside the villa gate. He spoke again, "We're home, Xingxing." "Oh, he's calling someone." The young and promising CEO Pei, whose career is flourishing, once had a younger sister named Pei Xing. Passing through the wrought iron gate, Pei Yan set me down. He turned to look at me, his brows relaxing as if he wanted to say something. Upon seeing my face clearly, his expression froze momentarily. One must always return to reality. He looked at me for a moment, quickly regained his composure, and his expression returned to normal. As we entered together, he gently asked me, "Would you like the fish braised or boiled?" I replied, "Boiled, please, something lighter." Given his health condition, he probably shouldn't eat anything too heavy or spicy, right? Wash vegetables, cook, and then eat. We ate the meal in unusual silence. Halfway through the meal, Pei Yan suddenly looked at me and said, "Actually, you and I." It seemed he couldn't bear to deceive me any longer. Carefully considering his words, I pretended not to hear it. After serving a bowl of fish soup, he spoke again, "It seems a bit too spicy. Should we use less chili next time?" There was a struggle in Pei Yan's eyes. After a long pause, he finally responded, "All right." He pushed the water glass toward me. "Then have some water, Nan Qiao." After finishing the meal, he tidied up the bedroom for me before returning to his own room to rest. Unable to sleep at night, I got up in the middle of the night and left the bedroom, wanting to go downstairs for a glass of water. Just as I stepped out, I faintly heard violent coughing coming from the adjacent bedroom. It seems there were also sounds of vomiting mixed in, continuously. Incessantly, the sounds were terrifying to hear. I went over and knocked. But there was no response, only violent coughing and retching. I tried to open the door, and it wasn't locked. The door opened, and by the moonlight, I saw the man sitting on the sofa. A strong smell of smoke and alcohol hit me as his back was hunched in the dim light, bending over the trash can at his feet, one hand gripping the sofa. His arm was trembling violently. I didn't turn on the light and walked over. The pale moonlight faintly illuminated the bloodstains on the carpet by his feet. In the late stages of heart failure, one may cough up blood. Smoking and drinking like this is practically suicidal. Those few white medicine bottles containing sleep aids were thrown in front of him, mixed with cigarettes and alcohol. One medicine bottle was opened, and all the pills spilled onto the coffee table. Perhaps he opened the bottle intending to take the medicine but then lost his grip. Hearing footsteps, he looked up at me, in a flustered hurry. He pulled open the drawer and haphazardly stuffed the medicine bottles and pills inside. 7. He also wanted to hide the cigarettes and alcohol, but probably realized I had already seen them. With blood still smeared at the corner of his mouth, he looked at me with dazed eyes, his expression full of agony. I'm sorry, Big Brother shouldn't have acted this way. I sat silently beside him and asked, do you really want to die? For a moment, I couldn't tell if I was asking him or asking that question to myself, who had wanted to end my life countless times. Do you really want to die that much? Is it really impossible to try living on? Pei Yan looked at me blankly. After a long pause, he finally replied self-deceptively, it's just because I have a terminal illness. Under the moonlight, I gazed at his face. What if heart failure could be treated by finding a compatible heart for transplant? Pei Yan's face trembled, but he didn't respond to me. After a long silence, I continued, hey, should we try to keep living in this world, we who are no longer noticed by anyone, rather than dying silently? How about trying to live on? At least every Qingming festival, we can personally offer a stick of incense to the family members we've let down. At the very least, the family members who left because of us clearly wished for us to live well. Pei Yan's face trembled more and more violently. Raising his hands, he covered his face with both palms. His voice was filled with agony. I've long lost the face to keep living. That year, she took her own life while gravely ill to spare me from paying exorbitant medical fees. So all these years, I've been working desperately to earn money. But it's no use now, it's no use anymore. In the night, his voice gradually turned into sobs. I whispered softly, so, only death would truly make me unworthy of them. I told him, and I told myself. The clock struck midnight, and the faint light of dawn began to appear outside the window. After a long while, Pei Yan finally released his grip, looking at me with a sorrowful expression as he said, so you really... He didn't continue, but I understood what he meant. He knew it. I was indeed pretending, feigning that I had mistaken him for my brother. The answer is self-evident. I didn't answer, just stared into his eyes. How about we try to find a compatible heart for you? Pei Yan's expression was pained and confused. Why are you helping me? I responded, because if you can, keep holding on to life, then I, too, want to try living on, just as my parents risked their lives and hoped for. We gazed at each other in prolonged silence through the quiet night. As the sky gradually brightened, Pei Yan finally nodded. He said, all right, but I'm afraid I can only disappoint you. I laughed and said, don't be so lacking in confidence. Miracles might happen. I lived like a walking corpse for 7 years, but now I've suddenly started finding things to do. Pei Yan's health was deteriorating day by day. It became difficult for him to go to the company again. But the matter of selling the company was also temporarily put on hold. His physical condition makes it difficult for him to travel around, contacting hospitals and medical institutions to find a compatible heart. Fortunately, apart from occasional mental health episodes, I don't have any other serious illnesses or injuries. I took on the important task of finding a heart for him. I worked almost every day from dawn to dusk, contacting renowned hospitals both domestically and abroad. To gain the hospital's attention, I donated some more money to them. Pei Yan and I weren't living lavishly, but fortunately, we were both relatively well off. Before my parents passed away, they left me a will with 100 million in savings and 30% of the company's shares. On minor New Year's Day, I was in the kitchen preparing the New Year's Eve dinner with Pei Yan, suddenly received a phone call from Norway. When I answered the phone, Pei Yan was washing vegetables by the sink. His health was deteriorating, and he could barely muster the strength to cook anymore, but he had already dismissed the previous housekeeper. He felt bad about leaving me to cook alone, so he insisted on helping out. Listening to the voice on the other end of the phone, I met Pei Yan's gaze as he turned from the sink. Perhaps we spent a considerable amount of money, or perhaps luck suddenly began to favor us. I clearly heard the intense pounding of my own heartbeat. The only thing that could make one feel anticipation and excitement wasn't just death, there was also new life, a new life for oneself, or one fought for others. I dropped my phone, overwhelmed with joy, and threw myself at him in an emotional outburst, hugging him tightly. Found it, Pei Yan, I found it. The man staggered slightly. He reached out, braced against the refrigerator behind him, then embraced me in return. He chuckled, his voice trembling with excitement just like mine. Thank you. Nan Xiao, with reddened eyes, I looked up at him earnestly and said, and thank you too. If it weren't for him, that day after I narrowly escaped death by falling into the river, only to be abandoned by Gu Nanzhao upon hearing him say he's not my brother, I probably would have sought death once again. For the past 7 years, there's been a voice in my heart. It has whispered darkly to me countless times, Gu Nanzhao, die, just die. If you die, you won't dream anymore. If you die, you won't keep reliving that day. If you die, the pain will end. 8. And now, an additional voice occasionally emerges in my mind, carrying the tenderness and affection my parents once had. It says to me, Nan Xiao, try to save yourself, try to live on, just like how you saved Pei Yan. With a heart full of excitement, I said, if the surgery goes well, let's live well from now on. Okay. After a long pause, Pei Yan nodded, yes, together, we'll both live well, for ourselves and for our deceased family members. I began preparing for the arrangements to go abroad with Pei Yan for the heart transplant surgery. We agreed that if the surgery went smoothly, we'd consider settling there for some years. Gu Nanzhao no longer acknowledges me as his sister. There's probably nothing left tying me to this country anymore. I want to try living in a different place, hoping to no longer be haunted by nightmares every night, no longer endlessly contemplating suicide. After Pei Yan's surgery, he would also need several years of proper rest and recuperation. Norway's tranquil environment makes it ideal for convalescence. Once the decision was made, Pei Yan immediately contacted a real estate agency in Norway and purchased a house. However, the risks of heart transplantation remain enormous, with limited success rates. It would be best to find the most experienced and professional cardiac surgeon to perform the operation. Internationally renowned in this field is a Chinese-American professor surnamed Wei. I managed to inquire and finally learned that Professor Wei would be returning to the country by the end of the year. Went to a remote mountain village in Jiangqing to spend the new year with my elderly mother who refused to leave her hometown, only staying for a few days. I couldn't reach him, so after much deliberation, I decided to try making the trip in person. When asking for a favor, speaking face-to-face shows more sincerity. Jiangqing had been experiencing heavy snowfall for several consecutive days. Pei Yan didn't feel comfortable letting me go alone, but couldn't stop me either. In the end, we both compromised. I booked 2 plane tickets, and he agreed to accompany me. The plane landed in Jiangqing. Then we transferred to a bus heading to the township. After arriving in the small town, the road to Professor Wei's village was closed due to heavy snow and ice. No vehicles could take us into the village. We could only find a small inn in the town and settled in temporarily. The inn had poor soundproofing. Late at night as I lay in bed, I heard Pei Yan's violent, painful coughing and retching again. He must have coughed up blood again. The hospital in Norway contacted me once more, advising us to go there as soon as possible to prepare for the transplant surgery. The snow outside the window continues to fall heavily. At the first light of dawn, I gritted my teeth and got up to leave. The route from the town to the village isn't complicated. I asked the innkeeper to draw me a map, then bundled up in thick cotton-padded clothes. Leaving the inn, I walked along the deserted icy road toward the village. It was nearly noon by the time I finally reached my destination, my entire body numb from the cold. A middle-aged man was sweeping snow in the yard, struggling forward. I looked at his face, then checked the photo on my phone. After confirming that Professor Wei was indeed the person before me, I instantly let out a long sigh of relief. My whole body trembled uncontrollably, my legs gave way, and I collapsed weakly, kneeling directly in the snow. Professor Wei was utterly startled by me and immediately dropped his broom to come help me up. He exclaimed in shock and concern, "Whose child is this?" Frozen to such a state, before I could speak, several more people emerged from the room. I recognized two familiar faces and froze momentarily. It was Gu Nanjiao and Linanen, the daughter of his business partner. As Linanen walked out, she called out to Professor Wei, "Uncle, who is it?" Gu Nanjiao emerged from behind her with a reproachful expression. "Put your clothes on properly, don't catch a cold." Strangely enough, ever since Gu Nanjiao said he wasn't my brother, I never went to see him again, yet somehow, I always inexplicably run into him. Gu Nanjiao looked at me collapsed on the ground, his eyes filled with fury. He strode through the snow with a livid expression. "Gu Nanjiao, have you lost your mind? I told you I'm not your brother. How dare you secretly follow me through this blizzard and frozen wilderness?" Can't blame him for misunderstanding. Coming to such a remote mountain hollow, if I said it was coincidence, it would indeed be hard to believe. Professor Wei said urgently, "Don't talk about that now, Nanjiao. Quickly take off your jacket and wrap it around this young girl." Gu Nanjiao scowled as he reluctantly took off his coat and haphazardly draped it over me. His voice was laced with anger. "Come inside with me." As he spoke, he grabbed my arm firmly and pulled me toward the interior. I shivered for a long time before finally mustering the strength to get up. Then I reached out, laboriously pushed his hand away, and said, "I'm not here for you, Professor Wei. I came specifically to see you." As I spoke, I carefully took out the document folder I had tucked inside my clothes. Inside were Pei Yan's medical records. I explained my purpose, then pleaded with reddened eyes, "Please help us. The heart transplant surgery is simply too risky. We only have this one chance at life." Gu Nanjiao looked at me in disbelief. After a long while, he opened his mouth several times but couldn't utter a word. He probably couldn't comprehend how I could go to such lengths for a complete stranger. After a while, even a trace of fear seemed to surface in his expression. He stared fixedly at my face. "Gu Nanjiao, you wouldn't really." Professor Wei's phone rang. He tossed out a "let's talk inside first" before answering the call and walking in. I was terrified that once he went inside, I wouldn't be able to see him again. In a flustered panic, I tried to push Gu Nanjiao away so I could chase after him. Gu Nanjiao forcefully grabbed me, his expression furious. "Have you truly lost your mind? That's just a stranger, and the roads within 10 kilometers around this village are all closed. You're risking half your life just to find a doctor for that man." I desperately pushed his hand away, watching Professor Wei walk in and disappear from sight. Linanen followed suit and entered as well. My eyes reddened with a mix of anger and anxiety, and in the heat of the moment, I blurted out, "That's not a stranger, Mr. Gu, you're the stranger to me." Gu Nanjiao's eyes turned bloodshot, finally unable to endure any longer. "That person isn't your brother at all. Our names differ by just one character. Gu Nanjiao, don't you understand?" The force in his palm was too strong. "No matter what I do, I can't break free." Finally giving up the futile struggle, I looked at him with some amusement. "Understand what? I should have known. Didn't you already tell me clearly, word by word?" Gu Nanjiao's expression froze, his thin lips trembling. "It's not like that, it's not." I wanted to say something more. In the corner of my eye, I suddenly saw that familiar figure behind him. That usually pale face now seemed to have lost its last trace of color. It was Pei Yan. He had actually come looking for me. The man was covered in snow from his long journey, his face etched with anxiety and exhaustion. When he saw me, his pale face relaxed with relief. Noticing Gu Nanjiao again, he seemed momentarily dazed before slowly lowering his gaze, gentle, desolate, uneasy. In my daze, I suddenly seemed to see Gu Nanjiao in his teens, hiding alone in his bedroom, quietly eating cake by himself. It's been too many years since I last saw that gentle side of Gu Nanjiao. Pei Yan's lowered gaze fell upon the snow-covered ground. He stood there for a while, lost in thought. He didn't call out to me, nor did he take another step. Gu Nanjiao said with a trembling voice, "Enough, this game ends here. You'll stay with me here first. When the snow melts, I'll take you back, understood?" Pei Yan's hand hanging at his side, blue from the cold, suddenly trembled. He finally reacted. With stiff and slow movements, he turned around and laboriously walked back the way he came. It felt like needles piercing my heart. The pain was excruciating. Overwhelmed with anxiety, I cried out in panic, "Brother!" I'm not Pei Yan's sister, but I knew very well that this form of address would soften his heart the most. With his current physical condition, it was already a struggle for him to make it this far. If he had to go back the same way, something bad would definitely happen. Pei Yan abruptly halted his steps, but his stiffened back remained turned away. Gu Nanjiao was thunderstruck, his eyes wide with fury as he glared at me. "Gu Nanjiao, what did you call him? Look clearly, look carefully." I'm your real brother." That frozen silhouette soon struggled to lift its feet again, trudging back along the path it came. I fought desperately to push Gu Nanzhao away. "Let go, release me." Gu Nanzhao's eyes turned red, suddenly letting out a cold, reckless laugh. "Do you think a stranger would take you back for no reason? I've checked. He lost a sister years ago. She died when she was just a teenager." The figure in the distance abruptly stopped again, in the sudden gust of cold wind. The man stumbled awkwardly and fell heavily to the ground. In an instant, there was no more sound. My eyes turned red with rage as I cried out in terror, get away from me, let me go." I was already so close to saving him. I clearly heard him say he was willing to live on, and we found a compatible heart. Tears uncontrollably streamed down my face, unable to break free from that iron-like grip. My body slid down as I knelt on the ground in despair. "Please, let me go. I need to save him." Gu Nanzhao clutched my hand desperately, yet it was as if he had seen something too terrifying. His face turned pale as he took a step back. He murmured in disbelief, "How could this be? How is this possible? Have you truly forgotten?" The man's face gradually paled before he suddenly crouched down, cupped my face, and drew close to me. "Brother is here, Xiao Qiao. What are you doing? Look at me, look carefully. I am your brother." In the corner of my vision, Pei Yan lay silently collapsed on the ground. I shook my head in fear. "You're not." Huge fear gradually surfaced in Gu Nanzhao's eyes. Xiao Qiao, I'm your brother. Have you really forgotten me?" I couldn't push him away. Gradually losing the strength to struggle, tears streamed down, yet she suddenly burst into laughter. "What kind of brother is this, Mr. Gu? You're my brother's friend. What's wrong? Have you forgotten? You also fell into the river. Are you having memory problems?" Gu Nanzhao clutched my face desperately, forcing me to look at him. His hands were trembling more and more violently. His eyes were bloodshot, filled with confusion. "Impossible, I won't believe it." Gradually, I began to lose the sound of his voice. In my vision, only that person lying in the snowstorm remained. Just days ago, he was gently telling me, "Let's both live well together," until Professor Wei, having finished the phone call, finally stepped out. His words, "Why haven't you come in yet?" barely left his lips. Seeing the scene in the snow, he immediately shouted angrily, "What's going on here? Hurry up and save them. How can you joke about human lives?" All I could hear was a violent ringing in my ears, my vision blurred. Professor Wei quickly checked Pei Yan's condition, then with great effort helped him up and took him inside. As he passed by me and Gu Nanzhao was still gripping me tightly, unwilling to let go, angrily shouting, "First figure out who your real brother is, then we'll talk about saving him." Professor Wei couldn't free his hands, his face darkened with anger, and in frustration he simply kicked Gu Nanzhao hard. "Nonsense. Human lives are at stake. If you want to make trouble, at least pick the right time." Gu Nanzhao wasn't prepared for someone to strike, losing his balance and staggering sideways, momentarily releasing his grip on me. I immediately scrambled to my feet in panic, stumbling after Professor Wei as he rushed inside. I saw Pei Yan's face had already turned ashen, even his lips taking on a deathly bluish-gray hue. My hands trembled as I reached out, trying to feel his breath. Professor Wei spoke in a low voice, "Still alive." The overwhelming wave of terror and guilt that threatened to drown me finally subsided, at least temporarily. Pei Yan's condition was critical. Fortunately, Professor Wei had brought some medicine and medical equipment with him due to his elderly mother's poor health. He provided emergency treatment for Pei Yan and then administered in 4 drip. Pei Yan still hadn't woken up, but his breathing had stabilized. At night, I slept on a makeshift bed by his bedside, thinking this way makes it convenient to check on his condition and breathing at any time. Heart failure patients must absolutely avoid catching cold. After all the commotion during the day, I'm worried his condition might worsen late at night. With a heart transplant on the horizon, it's best to remain cautious until the dawn truly arrives. Professor Wei said worriedly, "Will you be comfortable sleeping like this? If not, I can come watch over him tonight." I immediately replied, "It's fine, I'm used to it. It makes no difference how I sleep." Professor Wei silently looked at me for a while, then suddenly spoke again. "I remember you used to be quite delicate." I froze for a moment, feeling inexplicably embarrassed. "You recognized me?" Professor Wei sighed lightly. "You've lost so much weight. I remember you used to have such a plump, fair face, and were particularly willful and mischievous, back then. Your parents and brother spoiled you so much." Really, the words trailed off halfway, left ultimately unsaid. After a long pause, he finally asked again, "Did you have a falling out with your brother?" I saw no reason to hide it and answered truthfully, "He refuses to acknowledge me now. Professor Wei and I go way back when my parents were still alive. He had some friendship with my father, otherwise, I wouldn't have trekked nearly 10 kilometers through snow and ice to find him." No one is obligated to give up their rare rest time or time spent with their elderly mother, to return to work during New Year's Eve and Spring Festival to perform surgeries. I just thought, perhaps, if he doesn't agree, I could swallow my pride and remind him of the old ties between our families. Maybe he would consider some past affection, but forcing someone's hand is something I can't quite bring myself to do. Professor Wei didn't elaborate further on the private matters between me and Gunanzhao. Nor did he ask about my relationship with Pei Yan. After a moment of contemplation, he spoke again. "Heart transplant surgery has the lowest success rate among all organ transplants. As a doctor, I can only do my best. You need to be mentally prepared for all outcomes." I was overjoyed for a moment. I wanted to express my gratitude urgently, but was too overwhelmed to speak for a long while. Professor Wei said gently, "Get some rest early, you don't look well. You should find time to take care of your health. A compatible heart has been found, and the best doctor is ready." Lying in bed late at night, I gaze at the moonlight outside the window. Suddenly I feel that the light, which always seemed dull and gray before, appears exceptionally bright tonight, like the rising sun at dawn. It's been many years since I last felt such joy. Early the next morning, Pei Yan finally woke up. I told him about Professor Wei's agreement, and he was as delighted as I was. While I was talking to him, someone knocked on the bedroom door, and then it was pushed open. Gunanzhao stood outside with a stern face, his tone somewhat awkward. "Go down and eat. I made breakfast." I just had an argument with him yesterday, and being around him was really quite awkward, but this was a remote mountain village, with all the surrounding roads blocked off. Regarding Pei Yan's condition, I can't take him away for the time being, so I'll have to shamelessly stay here for food and lodging first. I looked at Pei Yan and said, "Can you get out of bed? Let me help you." At the door, Gunanzhao spoke again. "Professor Wei said he should stay in bed and rest quietly. I've asked the housekeeper to bring the meal upstairs. Let him eat in his room." As he spoke, the nanny entered through the door carrying a meal tray and helped set up a small dining table on the bed. Pei Yan turned to me gently and said, "I can manage on my own." "You go ahead." Gunanzhao sneered at the doorway. "What's the problem? He's not missing any limbs. Does he need to be fed? He always speaks so harshly." I went downstairs, and he brought out breakfast. Neither Lin and nor Professor Wei were around. They'd probably already eaten when my parents were still alive. Gunanzhao and I would walk home from school together, and he often cooked for me. Back then, I was particularly picky, and he knew my tastes best. After my parents passed away, I never got to eat his cooking again. 11. The company always had endless work, and Gunanzhao resented me, no longer wanting to have meals with me. I sat down at the dining table, silently eating the fried eggs and toast in front of me, with a cup of warm soy milk by my hand. The eggs were fried golden on both sides. In the corner of my eye, I saw a soft-boiled egg placed before Gunanzhao. "I'm allergic to milk and don't like undercooked eggs either. We've been arguing a lot these years, but it seems he's always remembered many things." The vast dining room was enveloped in deathly silence. I suddenly realized that my brother, who used to share everything with me, now sits beside me, only making me feel extremely awkward and embarrassed. Sitting so close while eating, I truly don't know what to say to him. I could only force conversation. "The eggs seem a bit burnt." Gunanzhao responded with a dissatisfied "Oh, didn't you say you liked it more well done?" He stood up and took away the plate in front of me. "The roads are frozen shut in this bitter cold. We're lucky to have anything to eat at all. Yet you're still being picky." He returned to the kitchen, followed by the sound of the stove being relit. Within minutes, a fresh plate of fried eggs was brought out again, without even looking at me. He tossed the plate back in front of me. "Last time, if you're still picky, make it yourself." I suddenly felt a lump in my throat, subconsciously lowered my head and continued eating. Gunanzhao's voice was displeased. "That's enough acting. The weather cleared up today. The road should be unblocked by afternoon. After finishing the meal, get ready to come back with me." It felt like a lump of cotton was stuck in my throat. For a moment, the words of agreement almost spilled from my lips. In this world, we truly only have each other left as our sole family. Before I could speak, he glanced upstairs again, his voice laced with loathing. "That man isn't short of money. Don't interfere with him anymore. Let him find someone to pick him up himself." he can figure out his own treatment, stop meddling with these ill-intentioned. So, he didn't just call me here for breakfast. The premise of taking me back is making me abandon Pei Yin. The food I was chewing suddenly became difficult to swallow. I set down my chopsticks neither lightly nor heavily, raised my eyes, and looked at the person beside me. How is he ill-intentioned? Gu Nanjiao's rarely softened expression quickly darkened again. Do you still want to defend him, traveling thousands of miles here for a stranger, walking for hours in the freezing snow to seek medical help for him? As he spoke, anger rose within him again. Look at yourself, what have you become? Did you care this much even when our parents passed away? The knife that had been stabbing my heart for 7 years suddenly felt like someone grabbed its handle again, twisting the blade inside my chest. I abruptly stood up, letting out a cold, bitter laugh. Emotions finally burst through the dam. I no longer wished to pretend with him. What do I look like now? Gu Nanjiao, you were the one who told me he's my brother, who told me to stop bothering you and to go with him. Still not satisfied. So what do you expect? What should I be like, and what should he be like? Didn't everything go as he wished? Gu Nanjiao's thin lips trembled. After a fleeting trace of guilt flashed in his eyes, it quickly turned into raging anger. You were indeed pretending. I stopped avoiding and met his gaze directly. Yes, I was pretending, but you were the one who told me to get lost first. For 7 years you were unhappy with me clinging to the Gu family, and now you're unhappy that I've left. 7 years ago I had a fight with my parents and stayed at home. I couldn't predict there would be an earthquake later. They passed away because of me, and I'm more heartbroken than anyone. So, what? What else do you want from me? For 7 years, I dreamt of that day every single night. That recording was the thing I feared most, yet I still played it on loop countless times during countless sleepless nights, like some form of self-torture. The moment I close my eyes, all I see is my parents covered in blood. I'm afraid of the dark, afraid of enclosed spaces. I sleep with the lights on, yet suffer from endless sleepless nights, nervous exhaustion, depressive mood. If death could atone for sins, I'd dream of nothing but dying, but my life was saved by them risking their own. I tried countless times, yet retreated at the last moment every time. Living feels like betraying them, but dying would betray them even more. I live a life worse than death, yet cannot die. Countless times, I deliberately wandered in pitch-black alleyways, like a madman. I even fantasized that some desperate criminal would suddenly appear and stab me to death. I looked at Gu Nanjiao, my eyes gradually turning completely red. Why don't you tell me? What exactly do you want from me? Or better yet, why don't you just kill me? Gu Nanjiao looked at me in disbelief, as if he was seeing a stranger. A strange emotion flashed in his eyes, somewhat resembling the expression my once doting elder brother used to show. It was the same expression he'd wear whenever I occasionally felt wronged in the past, tender yet helpless. But the current Gu Nanjiao would no longer feel any heartache for me. The emotion I saw quickly fading in his eyes was probably just my illusion. His tone was full of disgust and cruelty. Kill you, Gu Nanjiao? Would your parents come back to life if you died? Someone as willful as you who caused their parents' death should live in eternal suffering. My chest felt like a gaping hole had been torn open, every breath carrying the metallic tang of blood. After a long while, I finally managed to calm down with great effort and nodded. Fine, do as you please. I won't be going back with you. I walked past him and went straight upstairs. Behind me, Gu Nanjiao remained silent in anger for a long time. Then suddenly, he called out to me, Xiao Qiao. A voice too long unheard, gentle, abrupt, and strange. My heart suddenly skipped a beat. After over 20 years as siblings, I knew him all too well. A bad premonition welled up in my chest. I halted my steps and turned back to look at him. Seeing the smile in his eyes, I spoke again. Are you so sure Professor Wei will treat him? I frowned. What do you mean? Gu Nanjiao clearly had a plan in mind, appearing confident of victory as he walked unhurriedly up to me. You might not be aware, but Professor Wei is famously known throughout the region as a devoted son. His mother isn't quite lucid these days, and I've spent quite some time chatting with her recently. If I were to persuade her, she might say she truly can't bear to part with her son. Can you believe Professor Wei would really abandon his elderly mother alone during the new year? I can't believe he could say such things. It felt like all the blood in my body rushed to my head. By the time I came to my senses, my raised hand had already delivered a fierce slap across the face of the person before me. Gu Nanjiao's unfinished words abruptly stopped. His mocking and cold smile didn't even have time to fade. Frozen on his face, a burning pain radiated from my palm. He's my brother. we've fought and quarreled since childhood, but being slapped in the face like this was something that had never happened before, no matter what. When I realized what I had done, I wasn't sure whether I regretted it or not. I only felt that uncontrollable rage rapidly destroying my reason. Furious, I glared at him. You're truly insane, that was a human life. I refused to say another word to him. He makes me feel like a stranger, even terrifying. I went upstairs and returned to the bedroom to take care of Pei Yan. Gu Nanjiao didn't follow me anymore. After a heavy snowfall, the weather cleared up. In the afternoon, the road was temporarily reopened, allowing slow traffic to pass. Pei Yan could no longer delay and had to pack quickly to go abroad. Whether Gu Nanjiao would actually persuade Professor Wei to change his mind or not. 12. I've already done everything I could. I thought before going abroad, I should at least say goodbye to Gu Nanjiao. But now, it seems unnecessary. He despises me, and probably wouldn't care about my departure. Moreover, he harbors unwarranted hostility towards Pei Yan, and I fear that if he learns of our whereabouts, he might cause trouble again. In the worst-case scenario, I'm worried it might affect Pei Yan's transplant surgery. Having made up my mind, I waited until Pei Yan's condition improved slightly and he could get out of bed. Early the next morning, I managed to contact the small town's innkeeper and paid him to arrange a car for me. The bus took nearly an hour to arrive. When I received the call and went downstairs with Pei Yan, Professor Wei happened to be sitting on the living room sofa. Only when I reached the ground floor did I notice a suitcase standing beside him. Seeing us come down, Professor Wei put down his newspaper and stood up, saying, "Let's go." I froze upon hearing this. "Are you heading out too, by any chance?" Professor Wei's face darkened. "Wasn't it you who requested me as the lead surgeon? What, are you denying it after just one night?" I was both shocked and delighted. "You can set off right now. I heard he rarely returns to his hometown throughout the year. This time when I came back home, I stayed for less than 3 days. Besides, what Gu Nanjiao said to me yesterday, I thought," Professor Wei said solemnly. "What's wrong? Did you really think my old mother would make a scene about not wanting to part with me and force me to stay?" I was momentarily speechless. Professor Wei bid farewell to his mother and gave instructions to the caregiver. Only then did he turn to me and say, "Let's go. I actually wish I could stay home a couple more days. The old lady is very anxious and urged me to hurry and help treat your illnesses. Let's leave together." When we went out, I still didn't see Gu Nanjiao and Lin Yin anywhere. Got in the car, and it drove away. As I left, I instinctively glanced out the car window a couple more times. Professor Wei spoke up. He went with Lin Yin to buy food in town. The heavy snow blocked the roads for days, and Lin Yin kept insisting on going out to play. I let out an awkward "oh" and hastily averted my gaze. After paying, the car took us directly to the city airport, passing through the town market. I suddenly spotted Gu Nanjiao and Lin Yin among the scattered stalls and crowds. They were standing in front of a sugar figurine stall, where the vendor handed a freshly made candy sculpture to Lin Yin. The girl said something, then shoved the milk tea in her hand into Gu Nanjiao's grasp, reached out, fished out his wallet from his coat pocket, and handed over the money. For many years in the past, I was just like this too. Dragged Gu Nanjiao out shopping, then dug into his pockets to pay the bill. The car sped away, the scene flashing past my eyes in a hurry. A moment later, my phone buzzed. I took it out to see a WeChat message from Gu Nanjiao, abrupt and oddly brief. The message read, "What to eat?" A few more photos of the stalls. The clearest one shows a stall selling handmade osmanthus cakes. Suddenly I remembered that late night many years ago. I was fussing about wanting to eat osmanthus cakes. Teenaged Gu Nanjiao scared me by saying that children who eat sweet cakes at night will grow cavities all over their teeth, yet he still sneaked out late at night, returning with warm osmanthus cakes tucked in his arms. Back then, he said, last time, yesterday, as we had breakfast together, he fried me another egg and also said, last time, and now, through the car window, I watch that rapidly disappearing figure behind me. I think, perhaps this is truly the last time. I put away my phone without replying to that message. Upon arriving at the airport, just before boarding, the Norwegian real estate company called Pei Yan again. They asked about our approximate arrival time in Norway to finalize the housing purchase contract. After hanging up the phone, Professor Wei nearby looked surprised. "Are you planning to settle down there?" I informed Professor Wei about Pei Yan's plan to stay there for a few years of recuperation after the surgery. "I want to give it a try too, live there for a few years." Professor Wei remained silent for a long while before sighing. "If I'd known it would be like this, I probably shouldn't have deceived Nanjiao. I didn't quite understand. He further explained, I noticed he harbors great hostility towards Mr. Pei, and I was concerned he might affect Mr. Pei's treatment progress. This morning I lied to him, saying Mr. Pei's condition would definitely keep him bedridden for 2 or 3 days. And you certainly wouldn't be leaving anytime soon. Only then did he agree to accompany Lennon into town. Professor Wei finished speaking and sighed softly. Since you plan to stay there long term, aren't you going to call him before boarding? After a brief hesitation, I shook my head. No need. Over these years, the phrase I've heard him say most often is, Gunanqiao, why was it our parents who died instead of you? Maybe I shouldn't fight anymore. The boarding announcement came over the PA system. The phone in my pocket seems to be vibrating. I didn't pay any more attention to it, got up and entered the boarding gate. Gunanqiao felt uneasy. Ever since leaving Professor Wei's house with Linen, he had been feeling inexplicably unsettled. He was absolutely certain that if Pei Yan couldn't get out of bed for a few days, Gunanqiao wouldn't be able to leave. Yet he felt inexplicably uneasy, for no reason, intensely so. Linen was buying things at the stall. The heavy snow has just melted, yet the biting cold wind still lingers outside, but with New Year's Eve approaching, everyone has returned home for the celebrations. The streets are bustling with vendors and crowds, adorned everywhere in vibrant red, brimming with joyous festivity. Gunanqiao recalls again how every past New Year, he would return to their hometown with his parents and Gunanqiao to visit Grandma. Later, Grandma passed away, and then Mom and Dad were gone too. He and Gunanqiao stopped loving the New Year celebrations after that. When did it all begin? He never properly spoke another word to Gunanqiao again, that always lively and mischievous little sister who caused trouble everywhere, that little sister who would cry heartbroken tears and quarrel with parents after catching him eating birthday cake alone. She grew increasingly silent, increasingly lifeless, becoming indifferent to everything, showing little interest in anything. They grew increasingly distant from each other, more and more. They became like unfamiliar strangers. So, when Gunanqiao suddenly discovered that his younger sister had gone home with that complete stranger, she was chatting and laughing with that man, she was heartbroken and concerned about that person's illness. Despite the heavy snow blocking the roads, despite swallowing her pride, she was willing to risk half her life to find the best doctor for that person. That's why he felt such uncontrollable rage, or perhaps, it wasn't uncontrollable rage after all. He just doesn't want to admit it. He's jealous, insanely jealous, even her own blood brother. She hasn't cared about for so many years. 13. That's why he spoke so thoughtlessly in the heat of the moment. To say such childish and absurd words as asking Dr. Wei not to treat Pei Yan. Gunanqiao immediately slapped him across the face. See, as expected, in her eyes now, her own blood brother is less important than a stranger she's only met a few times. She actually believed he could be despicable enough to prevent a doctor from treating patients. Gunanqiao, hated how her insistence on staying home had led to their parents' deaths in the earthquake, but what he hated even more was how her eyes no longer saw him, and so, he hated that man too. Hate the man who made Gunanqiao care so much in just a few short days. He couldn't accept it. Even if that statement about not being her brother came from his own mouth, he could vent his anger momentarily by pretending to abandon Gunanqiao, yet he couldn't accept that she would really leave. Linen was still saying something beside him. Gunanqiao stood by the bustling street, lost in thought. Those chaotic, contradictory, and twisted emotions engulfed him like a hurricane. He felt uncomfortable, suffocated. Linen took the wallet from his pocket. The elderly street vendor didn't have a payment QR code. Gunanqiao let her be, just wanting to finish quickly and return earlier. A car passed by his side. Out of the corner of his eye, he glimpsed an unfamiliar car. Through the car window, he couldn't see what was inside. How strange. He actually felt as if he'd seen Gunanqiao. Her expression was calm, deathly still. Through the car window, he was also looking at him. He clearly couldn't see, yet he felt that he had seen. It was almost an instinctive reaction in that instant. He pushed Linen aside and chased after him. A rapidly departing car is impossible to catch up with on foot. Soon, the car disappeared from Gunanqiao's sight. Gunanqiao halted his hurried steps, momentarily dazed. It was just an unfamiliar car. He really ought to get his head examined. Linen hurried to catch up and asked him curiously, "What's wrong?" Gunanqiao snapped back to reality and replied, "It's nothing, I must have seen wrong." "Are you done shopping? Let's go back." Linen nodded. "All right." She came to town not to buy things for herself. Old Mrs. Wei is advanced in age and suffers from intermittent dementia. When confused, she often thinks she's still a child and wants to eat sugar figurines. With the roads finally unblocked, Lin came to town to buy supplies for her grandmother. Before Gu Nanjiao left, he couldn't resist taking a few photos of the street stalls and sending them to Gu Nanjiao. Like a stone sinking into the sea, there was no response. The unease in his heart grew stronger. As they got in the car, Lin said apologetically, "I'm sorry for taking up your time, but Uncle was really strange today. I already said I could come by myself. I'm old enough now. Is it really necessary to have someone accompany me when going out in broad daylight?" Gu Nanjiao's hand on the steering wheel suddenly trembled. That lingering unease that had been haunting him seemed to suddenly find a trace of its origin. He recalled this morning when Lin went out alone, about to drive to town, Professor Wei's strange expression, insisting despite Lin's refusal that Gu Nanjiao accompany her. Gu Nanjiao suddenly thought, perhaps it shouldn't have been like this, he shouldn't have come. Was it really true what Professor Wei said, the one who insisted on driving him away, that Pei Yan wouldn't be able to get out of bed for 2 or 3 days? The unease in Gu Nanjiao's heart quickly turned into panic and fear. The accelerator underfoot was pressed down continuously, yet he felt an extremely bizarre sensation. He wasn't getting closer to Gu Nanjiao, he was moving further away from her. He remembered again that unfamiliar car that had driven past him. Suddenly, labored and rapid breaths began escaping from the throat. Shouldn't have left, he was wrong, so wrong. The car sped homeward. When returning to the Wei household, apart from old Mrs. Wei and the caregiver, there was no one else left at home. Gu Nanjiao searched upstairs and downstairs, and even though he didn't want to believe it, he had to realize that Gu Nanjiao was gone. Professor Wei had lied to him. Did you go back to Beijing? Yes, the only option is to return to Beijing. Beijing has the best hospitals and medical facilities in the country. Professor Wei must have gone to Beijing with them to treat Pei Yan. It doesn't matter. Once he returns to Beijing, he can still see Gu Nanjiao. Gu Nanjiao tried to console himself, but cold sweat began to bead on his forehead. He went to old lady Wei's bedroom and asked casually, forcing calmness, "Have they gone to